The Journey of the Mechas. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 226, End of Assessment. Hey. What's your name? A very domineering voice rang out in the clearing of the entire jungle, and at this time Yang Mu also picked up the battle axe on the ground and put it back into the weapon rack of the mecha. Turning around, Yang Mu looked at the girl with a stunning appearance, and then turned his eyes to the side. Without saying a word, he turned around and walked into the jungle next to him. Yang Mu heard the other party's question, but Yang Mu felt that there was no need to answer. The mecha fight just now made Yang Mu have a very different understanding of this girl. The other party used fierce moves to attack him, and he also made him suffer several times, which also made Yang Mu have a new understanding of the quality of the freshman. But no matter what, his goal has been achieved. The opponent's mecha was completely destroyed by himself, and she could only complete the next route with her feet. Knowing all this, Yang Mu didn't want to say anything to the loser. Although this freshman who participated in the assessment is indeed very beautiful. Yang Mu continued to control the mecha and walked towards the jungle next to him, but Shenning, who saw Yang Mu's movements, caught up with him at this moment. Shenning quickly ran to Yang Mu's mecha, and Yang Mu almost stepped on it without noticing. Stop right there. Answer my question. Shenning looked up angrily at the 9-meter-high mecha in front of him, and then said loudly to the other party without any courtesy. Yang Mu also looked over, and seeing that the girl was not giving up, he also frowned, and then stopped. What are you going to do? Yang Mu said to the other party with the help of the mecha's loudspeaker system. When the other party heard Yang Mu's voice, a triumphant smile appeared on his face, and he looked up at Yang Mu's mecha. I ask you, what is your name? Shenning gritted her teeth and said word by word. Yang Mu was stunned for a moment when he heard the other party's words, and then showed a helpless smile. This little girl is really interesting. Is she going to retaliate against him later? Yang Mu looked at the other party again, and finally spoke. My name is Yang Mu, my name is Shenning. Shenning spoke the next moment after Yang Mu finished speaking, and then pointed at Yang Mu's mecha and said, I'll remember you. Tomorrow at Kunlun College, I will challenge you. Remember to come. After saying this girl with excellent temperament immediately jumped away, as if the mecha battle just now had no effect on her. Yang Mu stood in the cockpit with a confused head, and he really didn't understand what the other party was doing. Simply challenged him to a duel? But let's not talk about whether he would have time to deal with her tomorrow. Tomorrow, the freshman will have to go through a series of entrance ceremonies. Will she have time to challenge him to a duel? Besides, can the other party be sure that he is from Kunlun College? Just issued a challenge to him like this. Although Yang Mu was a little confused by the other party's move, he had to say that this girl made Yang Mu remember her. Yang Mu shook his head helplessly, and then controlled the mecha into the jungle. After learning the specific route map, Shenning looked at the direction where Yang Mu left again, with a little resentment and stubbornness in his eyes, and turned his head to the direction of Kunlun College. This night on Yanhurong Star was not peaceful for some people. At the age of 17 or 18, coming to such an unfamiliar environment, and then crossing mountains and ridges, and then operating the mecha to the end, while choosing various routes on the way, and encountering various dangers and difficulties. What's more terrible is that there are two places on this road where two mechas are blocking. The first mecha is blocking the way, and after saying a presumptuous sentence, it kicks down its own mecha, and then humiliates itself severely, making itself ashamed. But when it is finally possible to go down, another mecha is even more crazy. It will suddenly appear, either on top of the head or under the feet. Anyway, in the end, your mecha will usher in an end, without any resistance, and then the mecha will be severely damaged. But if you behave well, the other party will leave the two legs of the mecha for you to walk. If you think you are very powerful and confront the other party directly, the other party will directly cut off the limbs of the mecha, and then pry open your cockpit like peeling a crab shell, telling you that you can only walk to the end of the last section of the journey with your feet. On this night, all the freshmen who participated in this assessment remembered the two guys who drove the mecha deeply. But most of them gritted their teeth secretly, cursed a few words, and then left in a rage. Of course, there are also people who will never admit defeat and vow to fight to the death. The sun of a new day on Yanhurong Star rose again. Yang Mu, who had replaced the energy battery of the Cobra 3 times, took a short rest in the cockpit, and bloodshot eyes appeared. After a night of fighting, there were at least hundreds of students who passed by Yang Mu. Whether they were traveling together or alone, all of them accepted Yang Mu's test, and on this piece of ground, the parts of the mecha were scattered everywhere. Yang Mu estimated that he should have taken away a lot of money that night. Fortunately, Kunlun Academy was rich. After taking 2 sips of water from the straw on the back of the combat uniform, Yang Mu was about to put his hands back into the combat slot when a voice came from the communication channel. The mission is over. The dean has announced the end of the assessment. Su Xiaoking's voice sounded in the holographic helmets of Yang Mu and Ji Jin at the same time. Both of them responded, and then controlled the mecha step by step towards the direction of the academy. Ji Jin, the person you asked me to pay attention to is quite interesting. Yang Mu finally had time to chat with Ji Jin at this time. While controlling the mecha forward, he told Ji Jin about Xianning. Well, how is she doing with you? Hearing Ji Jin's question, Yang Mu's expression became a little strange, but he still shook his head and said, "It's okay. It damaged my mecha, but in the end I also dismantled the entire mecha." Yeah, Ji Jin responded calmly, and he didn't seem to be very surprised by Yang Mu's answer. Seeing that the other party didn't react, Yang Mu opened his mouth, but in the end he didn't say anything. Both Cobra mechas were moving towards the direction of the college. Not long after, the 2 mechas taking the shortest route pushed aside the jungle and found the entrance to the college. From a distance, it seemed that there were a lot of people gathered there. And there were also many mechas placed in the school square. The whole place was bustling, and it seemed that they were also doing the final aftermath of the freshman test. At this time, Yang Mu and Ji Jin's mechas were walking towards the school gate. The steady steps of the 2 mechas and the camouflage mecha bodies were all lingering shadows in the minds of many freshmen. Under the early morning sun, the 2 mechas seemed to be riding the sun. Everyone stopped what they were doing and turned their heads to look. Chapter 227 Conversation 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. At the beginning of September of the new year, yesterday's freshman assessment and screening had been completed, and the entire college had also begun a new school year. Yang Mu and others were no longer rookies at the beginning, but had become seniors of the second term. Now, the rookies were the freshmen of the third term. However, this batch of colleges was slightly different from the previous 2 batches. First of all, in terms of the number of students, the previous 2 terms only recruited 80 students, but this batch recruited a full 100 students. The increase in personnel also meant that the training of students in the entire college would take more energy and resources. At this moment, on the winding mountain road, not far in front of the second-term students, the third-term students were running forward with all their strength. This was an old project, and it was also the first warning to the freshmen who had just arrived. Yang Mu finally put himself in their shoes and thought about it. In the past, he had also tried his best to run through the first class of freshman enrollment, and now looking at them sweating profusely, Yang Mu and the second-term students were also quite emotional. With neat steps, Yang Mu and others gradually surpassed each other, and all the students of the third period also looked over. Yang Mu immediately found a girl named Xianning inside. At this moment, she was also sweating profusely, her lips were a little pale, and she was running forward with her teeth clenched. But with just a glance, Yang Mu and others quickly surpassed this sparse team and ran forward quickly to complete their basic goal of morning exercise today. After eating in the cafeteria, Yang Mu and others had professional courses to study today. This was a course taught by Mr. Yan himself, so Yang Mu naturally did not dare to be careless. Today's course was a theoretical class. Yan Shenfu once again brought everyone unique insights on mechas, and it was also the first time that he switched from the problem of mechas to warships. From the single combat of mechas to the status of mechas in warships and the corresponding combat methods. Everyone was surprised that this mecha design master actually had a high level of attainments in warship design, and they were also delighted after being surprised, and listened to Yang Shenfu's explanation more carefully. After class, Yang Mu stayed and did not leave immediately, because Yang Mu knew that Yang Shenfu must have something to talk to him about. Even if old Yang had nothing to say to him, Yang Mu would still say something to him. Sure enough, when only Yang Mu and Yan Shenfu were left in the classroom, Yan Shenfu put away the materials in his hand, and then looked up at Yang Mu. The midday sun shone on Yan Shenfu's face, adding a bit of different temperament to him. Yan Shenfu just looked at Yang Mu straight, and did not speak for a long time. Yang Mu also looked at him, but his heart was a little nervous, and he felt a little uncomfortable with old Yan's silence. Just when Yang Mu was about to ask first, Yan Shenfu spoke in advance and said to Yang Mu, "How is the progress of the drawing design recently? I didn't see you mention it to me." The question asked by Yan Shenfu was very sharp, and directly hid a major problem that Yang Mu was facing now. 2 months ago, Yang Mu told Yan Shenfu that he would design a new drawing next. Yan Shenfu was very interested in Yang Mu's statement and took time to come over and give some guidance. Originally, the general structural drawing of this thing should have been successfully completed and handed over to Yan Shenfu for review at the beginning of the school year, but until now, Yan Shenfu has not received any design drawings from Yang Mu. It's not that Yan Shenfu doubts that Yang Mu has lost the ability to design this, but Yang Mu has not made any moves for so long, and at the same time, he did not explain whether there was any problem with his design, so Yan Shenfu was a little worried. Because some designs are prone to various problems in the process of theoretical design, some difficulties are even difficult to overcome, and serious ones may even cause the entire design to be completely scrapped and start all over again. If Yang Mu really encounters such a problem, he can also help take a look and solve it. Yan Shenfu's heart is actually a little contradictory at the moment. On the one hand, he hopes that Yang Mu will make more mistakes and polish his state of mind, but at the same time, he does not want Yang Mu to stagnate and delay the emergence of a new design. After seeing Yang Mu's 2 drawings were very good, Yan Shenfu even had some expectations for Yang Mu's new drawings. Yang Mu smiled and said apologetically, "Mr. Yan, there is no problem with the design drawings, but recently, I always feel a little irritated." Irritated? What's wrong? Hearing Yang Mu's explanation, Yan Shenfu was relieved. As long as it is not a design problem, it will be easier to solve. Yan Shenfu immediately asked seriously. Yang Mu shook his head and continued, "I don't know, maybe I am a little tired of staying in the laboratory to draw drawings all day." Yang Mu did not hide his problem and said this directly to Yan Shenfu. Yan Shenfu looked at Yang Mu and the expression on his face was somewhat clear. "Why? Do you think drawing drawings is too boring and you can't adapt to it?" Yang Mu nodded and agreed. "Teacher, I think I am not suitable to be a person who can only draw blueprints. I want to experience a different life." Yang Mu said this, but he was paving the way for his future choices. Although drawing blueprints is a very beneficial thing in the future, gradually, Yang Mu found that he was positioned as a student doing scientific research, and he was more of an outstanding designer and inventor in the impression of others. But Yang Mu didn't want this. What Yang Mu wanted was to become a qualified soldier and a soldier who defended his country. The road was circuitous, but this was the ultimate goal. Only in this way can he truly have the power to fight back when the Zerg appeared. Hearing this, Yan Shenfu looked at Yang Mu deeply again, and then sighed secretly. This apprentice he found can be said to be excellent in all aspects, and he is talented and intelligent, which brought him a lot of surprises, especially the design talent shown by the other party is worthy of his attention. With a little cultivation, he will be able to steadily take over the important task of national mecha design in the future. However, the other party's character is a little restless in his calmness. He doesn't seem to like such a peaceful life. Instead, he is very interested in fierce battles and the gunfire on the battlefield. Although designing mechas in battlefields are essentially related, there must be some big differences between them. Yang Mu is more inclined to the latter. "Alice, the teacher will not hinder your dream, but at least you have to complete your design drawings now, understand?" Yan Shenfu did not want to scold him at all at this moment, and then let him draw the shape on the mecha design. He just said this, hoping that Yang Mu could listen to his words. He has done many mediations with Yang Mu, and Yang Mu always has a firm idea in his heart, that is, to go to the battlefield and the front line. Yan Shenfu did not understand this persistence at first, but when he learned that Yang Mu's father was a soldier, Yan Shenfu understood it a little. Although this is just Yan Shenfu's own guess, it is also a concession to a certain extent. Yan Shenfu no longer forces this apprentice to concentrate on mecha design, but is willing to give him room for choice. Yang Mu nodded immediately, then looked up at Yan Shenfu. The atmosphere between the two of them suddenly became a little frozen. Yan Shenfu no longer rejected Yang Mu's idea, but after a moment, deep fatigue still remained on his old face. "Come back when you are willing to come back. The Mecha Research Institute will always welcome you," After saying this, Yan Shenfu took his things and left here, leaving Yang Mu alone sitting in the classroom. After a moment, Yang Mu, who looked a little dazed, also stood up, walked out of the classroom, and walked towards his design room. Yang Mu was going to complete his design. At least now he would fully display his design, and then he would work hard to walk on the path he had walked before. Yang Mu lowered his head and pondered all this. He did not hear the shouting of someone behind him until the other party patted Yang Mu on the shoulder. Yang Mu turned his head and saw a somewhat angry face. "Are you Yang Mu?" A questioning voice sounded, but Yang Mu raised his eyebrows. Chapter 228 Lessons. The person standing behind Yang Mu at this moment was Shenning, the pilot of the Robin mecha that he met during the freshman assessment. Seeing Shenning, Yang Mu was very surprised that the other party could find him in such a short time and was able to block him here. What Yang Mu didn't know was that he and Ji Jin were already known to all the freshmen as the pilots of the Cobra mecha. Both of them had the same cold temperament and ranked first or second in various grades, which amazed everyone. The girls were even more surprised that Yang Mu and Ji Jin were not only so handsome, but also had such a fascinating temperament. More importantly, they had such powerful strength, which was completely like a male god in their eyes. What the boys thought more about was that the people who controlled the two mechas and tortured them to death were not elite pilots in the army, but two seniors who were only 1 year older than them. And the other party's terrifying strength may have been cultivated in this academy in a short period of time, which made the boys have greater expectations for Kunlun College. Two students who have been here for only 1 year can become such powerful figures, so can they become such people in the future? This made them fall into all kinds of reverie. But in addition to these people, there is another person who is completely unwilling to admit defeat, and even wants to come forward to find fault after knowing everything. This person is Shenning in front of him. Shenning stared at Yang Mu with wide eyes, and a ray of light shot out of her foxy eyes, which was a successful sly smile. "Sorry, you recognized the wrong person." Yang Mu made his decision almost instantly and decisively chose to avoid this trouble. He didn't have time or need to compete with the other party. This was purely a waste of his time. He still had to complete the design, and many things were waiting to be completed. Being entangled by the other party was definitely not a good thing. Yang Mu made up his mind in an instant, and threw such a sentence to the other party, then turned around and left directly from the side. But the next moment, Shenning quickly moved his body, came in front of Yang Mu, blocked Yang Mu, stared at Yang Mu, and opened his red lips. "No need to deny it, I know you are Yang Mu. I'm here to fulfill my promise. Accept my challenge," Shenning said loudly to Yang Mu, with a strong will to fight bursting out of her eyes again, her eyes burning. Yang Mu looked at Shenning deeply, and felt helpless about this charming girl. He didn't really provoke the other party, and the actions he made during the entire assessment were also because this was his assessment task, but now the other party is not letting him go because of this. Yang Mu ignored the other party, turned away again, and walked away on his own. At this time, the other party obviously paused. "Hey!" The next moment, a word from Shenning suddenly came from behind Yang Mu, and then Yang Mu felt a gust of wind coming. Yang Mu turned his body to the left sharply, and saw a calf swinging past. The look on Yang Mu's face became a little gloomy. After the conversation with Mr. Yan, Yang Mu felt a little bad, and now this girl is looking for trouble with him again and again. At this time, Yang Mu's already gloomy mood suddenly became worse. Shenning's actions behind him still did not stop, and he swung his fists and feet again, trying to hit Yang Mu harder. Shenning's plan was obviously that since Yang Mu refused to accept the attack, he would force him to accept the attack. The strong leg went up again, and Yang Mu suddenly turned around, stretched out his hand and grabbed the other's calf fiercely, then raised his head and looked at him with anger in his eyes. Shenning's movements obviously paused for a moment, and he couldn't help trembling after seeing Yang Mu's eyes. "I've already said that I'm not interested in fighting with you, Humph. I think you're just timid." "Why, Senior Yang, aren't you very powerful?" "It turns out you are just a coward." Shenning raised his head proudly, as if he was very happy that Yang Mu was angered by him. Yang Mu still looked at the other's face gloomily, with more anger in his eyes, and spoke. "Since you want to fight, then fight." As soon as he finished speaking, Yang Mu's hand holding the opponent's ankle immediately increased its strength. His right hand pulled violently, and then the fist in his left hand quickly followed. The opponent seemed not to be afraid of Yang Mu's attack. He jumped up at the first time, and kicked out his left foot to free the right foot that Yang Mu had grabbed. But Yang Mu was not someone who was so easily defeated. In close combat, Yang Mu had learned more than anyone else. Yang Mu rushed forward again with a quick step, and then the movements of his hands changed rapidly, and he kept punching. The dense rain of punches immediately covered the opponent. Yang Mu didn't care whether the opponent was a girl or not. Since the opponent was so persistent in attacking him, it meant that she had to accept Yang Mu's anger. Shen Ning was obviously frightened by Yang Mu's quick movements. When she was fighting back, she kept retreating, and gradually she couldn't hold on. It was not until this time that Shen Ning completely understood the horror of the boy in front of her. Although I have heard that this man named Yang Mu is one of the best geniuses in this school, the most talented person. However, as a person who has surpassed his peers, Shen Ning is disdainful of such things. The stronger the person, the more interested Shen Ning is in defeating him. Only by defeating the other party can one show his strength. But today Shen Ning made a mistake. The man in front of him was obviously not so easy to deal with. He was obviously more beyond his expectations. He seemed to have no power to resist him. Yang Mu kicked down with a whip, and Shen Ning crossed his hands in front of him to barely block it, but he felt a burning pain in his hands and his body could not help but retreat. When he looked at the other party again, Yang Mu suddenly came forward. At that moment, Shen Ning only remembered the other party's eyes full of murderous intent. A pair of strong hands clamped Shen Ning's neck fiercely, without any mercy, and directly pressed Shen Ning to the tree next to him. Shen Ning's face was a trace of pain, but he still waved his fist to hit Yang Mu. But the pressure on his neck made Shen Ning feel a little weak, and at the same time he felt a little breathless, and his hands slowed down. After a while, Yang Mu threw Shen Ning, whose face was already a little red, to the ground. Shen Ning sat on the ground and coughed a few times, and finally recovered his breath. I don't care what you want to do, I'll just say it once, don't come to trouble me. Yang Mu stood aside and said to Shen Ning in front of him without a trace of emotion. At this moment, Yang Mu felt that his anger was rising in his heart, but he restrained it only when he saw that there was a girl in front of him. If it was a boy, Yang Mu guaranteed that the other party would be carried into the infirmary today. After saying this, Yang Mu looked at Shen Ning, who was touching his neck and coughing violently, again, and the murderous look in his eyes gradually disappeared. He took out a pack of tissues from his body and handed it over. Shen Ning, who was coughing violently, saw something handed over by a hand in front of him, and looked up in surprise, but saw Yang Mu's still cold face, and then looked at the pack of tissues again. Shen Ning took it, and Yang Mu stood up again, turned around and left. Study hard, there is no use in arguing about some things. Yang Mu said this indifferently as he turned around and left, but he did not see the strange color flashing in Shen Ning's eyes. Chapter 229 All-Terrain Robot. Bang, 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 bang. The big fists hammered hard on the sandbag. The owner of the fists was sweating all over and looked at the sandbag in front of him with a focused expression. After hitting the sandbag hard with his fists again, Yang Mu took a deep breath and turned to the side to rest. On a chair not far from the sandbag, a slender figure was sitting there, but the work clothes made the whole person look more energetic and capable. That person was Gao Yu, who was sitting on a chair in the equipment room and looking at the huge paper drawing in his hand. This was the final design that Yang Mu spent another week to draw, but he had not yet shown it to Mr. Yang for review. Yang Mu, who finally finished the drawing yesterday, happened to meet teacher Gao Yu while eating in the cafeteria. She has recently started teaching the second batch of students to make some parts. They also have contact with each other on weekdays, and Yang Mu has also asked her some questions. When seeing Yang Mu, Gao Yu came over to say hello and ask about some things about his studies. Yang Mu suddenly thought of the drawing he had just completed, so he asked her to take a look. So there's the current scene. Teacher Gao, what do you think? Yang Mu said to Gao Yu while untying the trap. Gao Yu was still looking at the unfolded design drawing. After a while, she put the drawing down and looked up at Yang Mu. At this time, she had a surprised expression on her face. Very good, I'm curious, how did you come up with it? Gao Yu asked Yang Mu. Yang Mu smiled, but did not answer. He just went to get a glass of water and then looked at Gao Yu. Teacher Gao, do you think this thing can be included in the military equipment system? Hearing Yang Mu's words, Gao Yu frowned, looked at the drawing, then looked at Yang Mu and shook his head. It's difficult. Although such a design has been made and all parties are working hard, The shortcomings are too great. Electromagnetic pulse interference? Yang Mu asked, and the other party nodded. Although your EMP anti-pulse interference can effectively resist electromagnetic pulses, there are many ways to restrain such unmanned machines, and the operability is too unstable. Although unmanned control can reduce personnel losses, you must know that the programs that can be written into the terminals of these unmanned attack weapons are only advanced programs, and they cannot even reach the primary intelligence. In large-scale combat, as long as the opponent launches a powerful attack, it may cause all these unmanned machines to fail, and even delay the entire battle. Go Hong handed the blueprint in his hand back to Yang Mu, and the transmission revealed that it was a flat machine. This strange design has 8 slender mechanical legs, which looks like a strange mechanical spider, and the flat body carries various weapons. This is another blueprint in Yang Mu's mind, a design blueprint of an all-terrain unmanned attack robot. Its name is also very simple. It is called an all-terrain intelligent attack robot. This weapon is also an anti-insect attack machine, and the original intention of designing it as an unmanned machine should be to reduce casualties. The height of the body is only more than 2 meters, and the size is not big. After the 8 mechanical legs are unfolded, the entire body is only 3 or 4 square meters. It is powered by energy batteries, and the weapons are only equipped with thermal weapons. It is mainly used as a firepower output platform. Although this kind of robot is not as large as a mecha after it is manufactured, the components are also very complicated, requiring Yang Mu to have more professional knowledge. Among them, the problem that has been bothering Yang Mu is actually just as Go Yu said. Is unmanned things really better than manned ones? This is actually a bit like a meaningless pseudo-proposition, because in the current thinking of human beings, things operated by intelligent systems are still only used as auxiliary tools, even if technology is extremely advanced. For example, the drones, unmanned tanks, and unmanned warship defense platforms that have been put into use are all unmanned. Although they are powerful, they are basically used in special battles or as auxiliary platforms in wars. But this self-propelled robot is different. The drawings list this weapon as a main combat unit, and it is required to be deployed in large quantities on the planetary battlefield. What Yang Mu thought of at that moment was that this thing is actually completely useless. Because on the planetary battlefield, the Zerg can be completely cleared by humanoid mechas and tactical range weapons, so such weapons are really redundant. It is precisely because of this that Yang Mu is deeply involved in it and has doubts about such drawings. But sometimes change comes from a moment. When Yang Mu remembered another characteristic of the Zerg, he had a new idea about this weapon. Quantity, an unmatched large number. In the human resistance campaign, most of the army suffered heavy casualties when they were trying to help resist the Zerg and strive for the evacuation of refugees. The human body is very weak in front of the Zerg, which is 3 or 4 meters tall. The only weapons that can effectively resist are mechas and air forces, but sometimes they will be blocked by a locust like Zerg in the air, and the only ones that can really come in handy are ground troops. And a single human fighting with a mechanical exoskeleton is still unable to resist the tall Zerg, and the cost of driving a mecha is too high. Heavy weapons such as vehicle-mounted weapons are also impossible to produce quickly. The insects that attack in groups can quickly break through these obstacles. If there are a considerable number of things that can stop the opponent's attack, then it will definitely reduce a lot of casualties in the retreat. This was the first reason that Yang Mu thought of. Another reason was that Yang Mu learned from the drawings that these things were not expensive to manufacture, and that they had certain deformation functions. They could be deployed in batches on the planet, automatically find a location to hide, and be awakened when needed, and burst out directly from the Zerg. That was why Yang Mu had a different idea about this weapon. It could organize intensive defense and offense when blocking the enemy, and it could also be broken down into small pieces. The insect-like unmanned aircraft and the optical camouflage equipment on it made it easier to infiltrate the Zerg territory and provide more help to humans. Being able to infiltrate the Zerg would inevitably bring more tactical methods to it. The most important design above was the anti-pulse device, which would greatly ensure the survival rate of these aircraft, so that they could still be used after experiencing a pulse attack. As ideas emerged one after another, Yang Mu gradually strengthened his confidence again. Yang Mu looked at Gao Yu, rolled up the drawings, and then asked, "Teacher Gao, please tell me one thing. Is it easy to mass-produce this thing?" Gao Hong was obviously stunned for a moment, lowered his head and thought for a moment, then nodded. "If you don't consider putting it on super-heavy weapons, The production line for this thing will be able to produce it very quickly, and the cost will be only 1/3 of the mecha, or even less. Hearing Gao Hong's answer, Yang Mu showed a satisfied smile on his face, looked at the other party for a few times, and then said silently, "That's enough. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels." Chapter 230 Enlightenment. In Battlefield Command, keeping communication open is the first priority. From a microscopic perspective, a team must be able to quickly collect battlefield information and report it in a timely manner to ensure that the superiors can make timely adjustments. In the circular classroom, Su Shaoqing was explaining some basic elements of Battlefield Command to everyone. The students in the classroom were taking notes seriously, and Yang Mu was also writing something there. However, Yang Mu was not recording the knowledge that Su Shaoqing said, but studying what was in his mind. The drawings of the all-terrain robot have been submitted for half a month. Yan Shenfu seemed to have been entangled with something and did not come to the academy to teach. Regarding the drawings submitted by Yang Mu, Yan Shenfu only conveyed a message to Yang Mu, asking Yang Mu not to worry for the time being, and the drawings were already undergoing data analysis. But that was all. After the design was given out, Yang Mu never designed a new drawing. Every day he was in normal classes and had a normal schedule. After he confessed his feelings to Mr. Yan that day, Yang Mu became more and more disgusted with sitting in this classroom. Listening to the knowledge he already knew, he was more eager to show his skills in the army. However, the 2-year school system of Kunlo College was here. Although Yang Mu was willing, he had to finish his studies before he was qualified to be assigned to the command department of the army. So Yang Mu could only learn the things here while reviewing the things he didn't know. The things he didn't know were the tactics and strategies for fighting insects that had always been in Yang Mu's mind. These tactics and strategies were complicated and cumbersome, and Yang Mu was also digesting them bit by bit. "Yang Mu, answer this question." Suddenly, the classmate next to him poked Yang Mu, who was concentrating on the paper. Yang Mu raised his head and saw Su Shaoqing looking at him with a smile. Yang Mu stood up a little awkwardly and learned Su Shaoqing's question from the classmate next to him. "What is the most correct order for the commander on the battlefield?" The students in the classroom all looked over at this time, and seemed to be looking forward to how Yang Mu would answer the teacher's question. Yang Mu looked at Su Shaoqing, then lowered his eyes and thought about this question carefully. In fact, Yang Mu, who had been on the battlefield for a long time, already had an answer to this question. On the battlefield, the most correct thing is to give the most correct order. But the most correct order should be discussed differently. The situation on the battlefield changes rapidly, and there will be many differences between this moment and the next moment. The order cannot remain unchanged. A true commander should always change his orders, always let his soldiers get the most correct orders, and successfully complete the combat mission. The field was quiet at this time, no one spoke, everyone was waiting for Yang Mu to give a reply. After a moment, Yang Mu raised his head, with a hint of hesitation on his face, and spoke slowly. "Teacher, I can't answer this question." A faint word was said, and the people in the field were a little uproarious. Everyone couldn't think of such a question that was not difficult to answer. Why Yang Mu, as a top student, said that there was no way to answer it. Hearing Yang Mu's answer, Su Shaoqing's face was expressionless, and at this time a boy next to him raised his hand. Su Shaoqing stretched out his hand to let the other party speak. The boy stood up, glanced at Yang Mu who was not far away, then looked back at Su Shaoqing confidently, with a smug look on his face, and spoke loudly. "Teacher, although classmate Yang can't answer, I have my own opinion. Sure enough, anywhere, there will always be people who want to become more outstanding, especially when they have the chance to step on the best here." The expression on Su Shaoqing's face still did not change much, just raised his head and gestured, and the boy also spoke. "Teacher, I think the most correct order on the battlefield is to move forward steadily when the attack is going smoothly, and to retreat steadily when encountering obstacles," the boy said proudly, as if he was very confident in his answer, and looked at the people around him proudly. The people around him looked at each other at this time, and the next moment, the whole silent venue suddenly burst into laughter. And Su Shaoqing's face gradually darkened. The boy was also a little surprised by everyone's reaction, frowning, and had no idea what was going on. When Yang Mu heard the other party's answer, he couldn't help laughing. The boy's answer would be enough to pass the test in an ordinary military academy, but it was completely stupid in Kunlun Academy. From the beginning to the end of this sentence, there was no word about anything specific. It was all big concepts, and it was a big concept that everyone knew. To put it bluntly, this was just empty talk, a high-sounding empty talk without any real content. And this is a taboo for Su Shaoqing, a teacher who pursues extreme details. Sit down, find a book related to Battlefield Command, copy it 3 times, and I want to see it by this time tomorrow, as expected, Su Shaoqing said with a bad face after hearing the boy's answer. The boy also widened his eyes and sat down with a red face. The audience was silent again, because this was a rare moment when everyone saw Su Shaoqing's bad face. Su Shaoqing looked at Yang Mu again and spoke. Yang Mu, I hope you have something to say now, and it's not something so superficial. Although Yang Mu just explained that he didn't know, it was obvious that Su Shaoqing didn't want to let Yang Mu go like this, and he still asked. Yang Mu looked at him again, and then his expression became serious. After a moment, he spoke. Teacher, I think that there is only one correct order on the battlefield, that is the order that causes the least number of soldiers to die, which is the most correct. When Yang Mu said this, some students in the field showed a trace of disdain, but they didn't make any big moves. Instead, they looked at Su Shaoqing first, ready to see what Su Shaoqing's reaction would be when he heard this. And they were surprised to find that Su Shaoqing's serious face gradually showed a smile, but it was not a smile of relief. Yang Mu, don't you remember what I said to you at the beginning? A kind man cannot command an army. Su Shaoqing's words were calm without a trace of emotion, but every word was a pearl, echoing in everyone's heart, and at this time everyone looked at Yang Mu again, thinking that Yang Mu was also going to be unlucky. But Yang Mu looked straight at Su Shaoqing, and after a moment of silence, he spoke. A commander who is kind should not be in charge of the army should be described as the attitude of the commander towards the enemy in combat orders, not just towards his own soldiers. Yang Mu raised his head and said to Su Shaoqing proudly. The students around him were also lost in thought, as if thinking about Yang Mu's words. At this moment, Su Shaoqing's face showed a real smile, a smile of satisfaction and appreciation. Define, Su Shaoqing said this word, immediately interrupting everyone's whispers, and everyone immediately understood that Su Shaoqing agreed with Yang Mu's statement. Asking him to define was asking him to make further explanations. Yang Mu looked at Su Shaoqing seriously again. At the beginning, I also thought that as a commander, the most important thing should be to win the battle, because this is the most essential job of a soldier, to win the battle, but then I found that I overlooked a fact, that is, how I looked at this issue from the perspective of a commander. If I were a chief in the headquarters, and I was faced with a major battle moment where I needed to make critical decisions, then the decision I made at this time would, to a large extent, be the same as that of the classmate just now, to expand the results of the battle when things were going well, and to reduce casualties when encountering obstacles. When Yang Mu said this slowly, there was some disbelief on the faces of the students. But Yang Mu changed the subject. But the problem is that I'm studying battlefield command, which has a different definition from military command. Because of my current position, I'm also a soldier holding a weapon on the front line of the battlefield. I also have to face the enemy at hand. I have to arrange various tasks to move forward while ensuring my own safety. So at this moment, what I need to do is more detailed and worth considering. How can I use the limited troops in my hands to achieve the greatest results? In this process, these soldiers in my hands are my greatest reliance. Only when they are alive and can take up weapons to fight can they bring me more possibilities, so the premise of each order is to ensure that they can survive as much as possible, so as to create greater results. At this point, Yang Mu paused, then looked around and spoke. A few months ago, I was on duty as a soldier of the Intervention Corps like everyone else, and on Moko Star, I learned another thing, that is, in front of a real battlefield, the lives of officers and soldiers are the same, worthless. Yang Mu said so. And as for why he used this incident as an example, it was because Yang Mu needed to use the incident to prove his statement just now. Those words came from Yang Mu's battlefield experience over the years, from countless battles. After counting his comrades and seeing the soldiers sacrificed again and again, Yang Mu gradually understood this truth. Sometimes the life of a soldier is more important than anything else. Commanders on the battlefield, Danger may happen in front of you at any time, and when that moment comes, you have no time to retreat, and it is impossible for the soldiers to block the danger for you. At this moment, your life is exactly the same as that of other soldiers, but you can't just die like this. You have to live, because there are many soldiers around you who also need to rely on you to survive. If you survive, they will survive, and similarly, if they survive, you will also survive. Yang Mu paused again. Speaking of this, we can infer another thing in reverse. Even if a commander who controls a large army makes a decision that seems to be for the victory of the battle, whether it is to advance or retreat, there is a fact contained in it, that is, to preserve the strength of the army. And what is the root of the strength of the army? Soldiers. Without soldiers, all weapons will be a pile of scrap metal, and we will not be able to win a war. The story of a horseshoe is indeed a wake-up call, but in this, we must not forget what is maintaining a war. It is soldiers, every living life. In summary, the most correct order on the battlefield is to save the lives of soldiers as much as possible. Yang Mu said this sentence in a sonorous and powerful voice. Yang Mu's words echoed in the entire wide classroom. Everyone looked at Yang Mu in surprise, and then looked at Su Shaoqing in surprise. Su Shaoqing also looked at the emotional Yang Mu, but after a moment, he showed an expression of understanding, and then waved his hand, asking Yang Mu to sit down. Yang Mu's answer, "I am satisfied." Su Shaoqing said this calmly, and everyone in the room looked at Su Shaoqing seriously. Su Shaoqing walked back to the podium, then looked at everyone and spoke. "Actually, I remember the moment I said that a merciful man cannot command an army." There was another sentence after that. Who still remembers it? Led by example. At this time, a girl raised her hand and said, and Su Shaoqing nodded. That's right, led by example. Although Kunlun Academy is a super-standard military academy, from the beginning of its establishment, our purpose is completely different from other high-level military academies. Su Shaoqing said this calmly, as if he was explaining a fact that everyone knew. The dean once told us that the establishment of this academy is for the foundation of the Republic for thousands of years to come. You may or may not know that there is a popular thing in many military academies now, called utilitarianism. In order to get a better chance of promotion, you choose to study hard, and you will also use some other means in the process, and the purpose of all this is for one thing, that is, to have a better future in the future. Everyone has abandoned one original intention, that is, they choose all this for love, and make great efforts for love. When Su Shaoqing said this, he also glanced at the boy just now. Because of this, utilitarianism made them position themselves differently from the first moment. The positions they envision in the future are more about strategizing in a favorable environment, commanding the army thousands of miles away to complete the task in an instant, so they don't consider casualties, don't consider consumption, only consider one thing, whether the war is won or not, and in the end, their excuse is one sentence: kindness can command an army. At this point, Su Shaoqing rested his hands on the podium. But they forgot the other sentence at the end, leading by example. This is the first requirement of every country for officers. Leading by example, rushing to the front at every moment. Only if you are not afraid of life and death, your soldiers will not be afraid of life and death. But indeed, there is a more important premise. You must remember that you are an officer. As an officer, the soldiers listen to you. If you only think about putting life and death aside, but never think about bringing all the soldiers under your command back one by one, then you are derelict in your duty. You must understand that your positioning is not to be a resourceful general from the beginning. You will be officers commanding on the front battlefield where blood and flesh are flying. What you have to do is to charge forward with the soldiers. You must be on the front line to ensure the successful completion of the mission. So this is battlefield command? This is what you have to learn. Su Shaoqing also spoke loudly to everyone, but at this time Yang Mu's heart moved, as if he understood something in an instant in his heart. He sat in his seat and clenched his fists. I've been having a bit of a writer's block lately, so I'm going to quickly transition to a new map. Please forgive me. Chapter 231 Yang Mu's Choice. What? You said you're going to the army now? Yang Qin's incredible voice suddenly came from the office. The hand holding the teacup trembled a little, and he looked at the boy in front of him with great surprise. The boy sitting in front of Yang Qin was Yang Mu. Su Shaoqing's words the day before yesterday made Yang Mu suddenly feel enlightened. From his words, Yang Mu also understood what he was longing for at that moment. Battlefield command is a knowledge on the front line. Yang Mu's decades of military experience naturally understood this truth, but from Su Shaoqing's words, Yang Mu realized something else. Although he has rich combat experience, he is still just a student now. Although he has a head full of strategies, sitting here is just talking about war on paper. Even if he can understand these tactics and strategies, he cannot flexibly apply them to reality. Practice is the only criterion for testing the truth of knowledge. Since he doesn't want to continue drawing those drawings now, he will change the environment and continue to sharpen himself in that familiar environment. Go to the place that you are most familiar with, and experience those bloody storms. Only in this way can you be more determined to achieve your goals, and it will be a better path for your future. Yang Mu nodded, and looked at Yang Qin in front of him with a firm look. He had just made it clear to him that he would join the army and go to the frontline battlefield, no matter where. Yang Qin still looked at Yang Mu, as if he was thinking about something, and shook his head after a moment. Yang Mu, can you tell me the reason first, Dean? I think I have learned enough knowledge from here. I need to experience the real battlefield and verify what I have in my mind one by one. Yang Mu also learned a lot in Kunlun College, but these things are not enough. The comfortable study life every day makes Yang Mu's blood gradually quiet, but the crisis after more than 10 years is deeply pressing on his heart. Yang Mu needs to find a way to change his state. But you are different, Yang Qin said immediately, with a hint of hesitation. You are a different kind of talent. We can't just let you go to the front line. Yang Mu listened to the other party's explanation and understood what Yang Qin meant. His talent in design misled them to think of him as a talent in that area, but he didn't show much excellence in military combat, so they chose to cultivate him as a research talent. His outstanding performance again and again obviously strengthened their idea. Yang Mu suddenly felt that it was a wrong decision to make a few drawings like that. Yang Mu knew that today's matter would definitely not be easy to solve, and he didn't tell Yan Shenfu that he was going to the front line immediately. No one knew about it. Now only Yang Mu and Yang Qin, who just knew Yang Mu's intention, knew about this. Dean, let me ask you a question. After we graduate from school, will the positions we get be the most important ones? Yang Mu was silent for a moment and asked. Of course not. Each of you must start from the grassroots. That's good. I will go to the grassroots and start as a small soldier, but you are now a junior officer. If I don't tell you, who will know? Yang Mu still looked at Yang Qin with a firm gaze. The reason why he came to the dean today was that Yang Mu knew that the request he put forward would be impossible to agree to in the eyes of others, but it was different for Yang Qin. The eyes of the two people collided with each other. Yang Mu saw the consideration in Yang Qin's eyes, while Yang Qin saw the desire in Yang Mu's eyes. The office fell into silence. After a moment, just when Yang Mu felt that he had to change his way to explain to Yang Qin, the old marshal of the Republic spoke directly. Yang Mu, are you really ready? The voice was old, but sonorous and powerful. Yang Qin's temperament instantly became extremely calm. Yang Mu was stunned, and then nodded with a firm look. Dean, I will never regret my decision. To be honest, I don't want to let you go just like that, but it is true that our mission is different from others, and I also believe that you are a unique young man. So the old man made the decision. You will receive the information you want in 3 days. Thank you, Dean, Yang Mu said loudly in surprise, but Yang Qin waved his hand helplessly. Let's go, and say goodbye in the next 2 days. It's a good thing for young people to be enterprising, but, hey, let's go, let's go. Yang Mu stood up, saluted Yang Qin, and then left. After Yang Mu turned around and left, Yang Qin looked at the door of the office with a little melancholy. This feeling became a very difficult decision for Yang Qin, who had always been decisive. Perhaps he valued the child in front of him too much? Yang Qin saw hope in him, and it was because of this that Yang Qin hesitated. But in the end, he chose to obey the other party's decision. Since retiring, Yang Qin has put all his energy into Kunlun College, just to see more hope in his lifetime. And the Yang Mu in front of him was once the person he cared about the most. The various talents he showed made countless people admire him, not to mention that he was also the winner of the 3rd-level hero medal. At a young age, he already had a heavy honor. For such a good seedling, Yang Qin had even planned his life trajectory in his mind early. But now the other party proposed to go to the front-line troops by himself and choose to fight step by step. And it was this sentence that inadvertently touched Yang Qin. At that moment, Yang Qin remembered his past. He was a military school student, and then he went up step by step from the grassroots troops, seizing opportunities, meeting challenges, moving forward steadily, and achieving success. Will the young man in front of him be able to do this? When this thought came out, Yang Qin's heart, which was no longer passionate, actually pounded, and even the other party was looking forward to such a thing. And just like this, Yang Qin chose to agree to Yang Mu's request, but he couldn't help feeling a little disappointed. And Yang Qin could only comfort himself in his heart. This all-round student, even in the most basic troops, would shine like gold. After Yang Mu came out of Yang Qin's office, he was relieved in his heart. Although the request he made seemed a bit abrupt, and even a bit rebellious to some extent. But fortunately, the dean finally agreed, and he had to prepare well for a different military career. Standing on the boulevard of the college, Yang Mu looked at his hands and grinned. This is also the second time he has changed his destiny. At noon on the third day, Yang Mu received a joint order from the college and the military. Yang Mu was assigned to the 13th Mecha Squadron of the White Tiger Regiment of the 3rd Legion of the New Song Star Domain, serving as the deputy captain of the Mecha Squadron with the rank of Sheok Singwei. The order will take effect immediately upon arrival, and set off immediately. Chapter 232 Suzhenai. This is Yang Mu's second visit to the spaceport of Annihilation Star, but this time Yang Mu has mixed feelings. Every time he leaves here, there are different things, but there is always a result, that is, he can come back here next time. But now, this time is completely different. This time, when Yang Mu returns here, it may be difficult to know when, and leaving here also means that Yang Mu will face a completely different environment. From a comfortable, prosperous, stable and peaceful world to another world where he is nervous every day. But all this is Yang Mu's own choice, and Yang Mu does not regret it at all. Yang Mu, take care of yourself. Beside Yang Mu, Ji Jin said to Yang Mu, and then handed something to Yang Mu. This is a batch of new strengthening potions developed by Teacher Ma, which have very good recovery functions. I asked for a few for you. Taking the box handed over by Ji Jin, Yang Mu saw the two neatly arranged rows of potions inside, and then gave Ji Jin a bear hug. Thank you, my brother. Ji Jin didn't say anything else, and just patted Yang Mu on the shoulder. Yang Mu, you liar, you actually left without telling us. Jimo also came over at this time and looked at Yang Mu angrily. Yang Mu didn't know how to explain, so he just smiled awkwardly. At this time, Jimo suddenly whispered to Yang Mu. You guy, you are really a troublemaker. Sister Shenning heard yesterday that you left like this, but she was so angry. Hearing Jimo's sudden words, Yang Mu was a little surprised. Could it be that the girl was still brooding over not having a duel with him? Yang Mu didn't know how to answer, so he just laughed dryly twice. By the way, where's your girlfriend? You are going to serve in the army, won't she come to see you off? Yuan Miao next to him asked at this time, but Yang Mu grinned and said with some regret. Kabir followed the college to another star field for internship research, and she really couldn't make it back. Yang Mu told Chen Kai about this matter the day before yesterday. Chen Kai was very surprised, but at this moment she was in another star field and had no way to come back before Yang Mu left. Yang Mu comforted Chen Kai a few words, and also promised that he would take good care of himself. Hearing Yang Mu's explanation, Jimo did not speak, but looked at Yang Mu deeply for a few times, then turned his head and stood aside silently, no longer looking at Yang Mu. Yang Mu said goodbye to the other teachers and classmates who came to see him off one by one. His eyes swept across the faces of each of them, and then saluted solemnly. Yan Shenfu did not come this time. Yang Mu had already told him that he would go to the front-line troops, but after listening to him, old Yan was silent for a long time, and finally replied with only one sentence. Boy, you have to come back alive. Yang Mu also communicated with his family, and also told his brothers the news. When everyone was surprised, they could only wish Yang Mu a safe journey. After packing up, Yang Mu finally chose to leave here today and go to his post. All of this was incredible in everyone's eyes, because Yang Mu was the first person to go directly to the army without completing his studies. Some people sighed, some sighed, and everyone was filled with emotion, but no one was willing to make the same decision as Yang Mu. Yang Mu was about to embark on a different journey and experience an even more different adventure. Stepping onto the starship, Yang Mu looked at the people who had not left the spaceport outside the window, and once again reached out his hand to say goodbye to everyone. The entire spaceship left the spaceport of Annihilation Star and headed towards the vast starry sky, leaving only a faint tail flame. Crew 447, you have arrived at your destination. Please exit the cabin in 15 minutes, a mechanical female voice sounded in Yang Mu's ears. Yang Mu suddenly woke up, reached out to take off his mask, opened the hibernation chamber, and sat up. The long flight hibernation brought some discomfort to Yang Mu, but he recovered after a moment. Shaking his head, Yang Mu looked out the window and saw an umbrella-shaped space city not far away. The gravity device in the umbrella-shaped space city with a metallic luster was slowly rotating, and the starship Yang Mu was riding was slowly approaching. This is a space military fortress. It seems that he has arrived. Yang Mu quickly got up and washed up, then took his things, put on a neat combat uniform, and walked out of the room. Through the connecting channel between the starship and the space fortress, Yang Mu came to the space fortress. The system in the fortress immediately recognized a personal chip under the skin of Yang Mu's right hand, and then the control center issued an order to Yang Mu go to a cabin next to it. Looking at the route planned for him above, with a memory of the space fortress before, Yang Mu knew that it was the core control room of the space fortress. The system actually asked him, a low-level officer who came to take up his post, to go there. Although a little confused, Yang Mu still walked over there. This space fortress seemed to be very busy. People wearing different functional uniforms walked through the circular passage from time to time. Yang Mu followed the markings and walked to the core control room step by step. The hatch opened and a female officer received him. Yang Mu, number XS030111302, the female officer asked Yang Mu, and Yang Mu nodded. Then the other party led Yang Mu to a room next to it. Yang Mu looked around the control room for a while, tightened his things, and followed. Pushing open the door, Yang Mu saw an office of about 10 square meters, and in it, a man at the desk was leaning on the desk with his hands crossed. The middle-aged man was wearing a thick dress hat, and Yang Mu couldn't see his face clearly, and he couldn't see his rank on his military uniform, but the atmosphere here made Yang Mu immediately serious. The female officer withdrew, and the man who covered his face also raised his head and looked at Yang Mu. Seeing the other person's face, Yang Mu was stunned for a moment, and then stood up immediately. Are you Yang Mu? Yes, sir, Yang Mu answered loudly, with a serious expression on his face. From your appearance, do you know me? The middle-aged man's strong voice sounded. Yang Mu also glanced at the other party, and then said loudly. Yes, the Minister of Military Affairs. Yang Mu had known the man in front of him for a long time. His name was Suzhanai, the Minister of Military Affairs of PAJR, and he could be said to be the person with the highest position in the military system. Yang Mu had met this man several times before, but at that time he had gray hair on his temples, and was not as energetic as he is now. The reason why Yang Mu's face was a little shocked was that at the moment he saw the other person's face, Yang Mu seemed to see the shadow of a familiar person on this face. That person was Su Yunming. When Suzhanai saw Yang Mu like this, he didn't have any expression, but just raised his head and looked at Yang Mu with sharp eyes. Since you know me, then I won't beat around the bush. Chapter 233 The Purpose of the Meeting. Since you know me, I won't beat around the bush. Suzhanai looked at Yang Mu and said this slowly. Yang Mu didn't understand why the other party said that, or rather, Yang Mu was more concerned about why the other party called him here. Could it be that because he had the hero's medal, the military minister knew about it, so he came here to show special concern? But this military minister is a mysterious figure, why would he appear here? Yang Mu was confused, but Suzhanai continued. I know you are confused about why you see me here, don't think too much, the reason I'm here is just to meet the awarder of the hero's medal that we have finally seen in these years. Suzhanai seemed to be comforting Yang Mu, saying this calmly, with a gentle smile on his solemn face. Meeting you is just a whim of mine, or because I am interested in you, sir, I don't understand what you mean. Yang Mu looked at the other party, but the puzzled look on his face did not disappear. Suzhanai stood up at this time, then walked around the desk and came to Yang Mu. I mean, I'm curious about how your brain works, Yaori, and those completely different designs. How did they come out of your brain? Suzhanai said this. Yang Mu glanced at him slightly, then immediately retracted his gaze, but did not answer immediately. Suzhanai's sudden words made Yang Mu wonder how to guess his intention. It was incredible for him to meet such a senior official in an ordinary space fortress, and he said that he was just in the mood to meet him. What's more important is that he seemed to be very interested in his designs. Yang Mu felt like a thorn in his side when he said this. If a design expert asked him this question, he could explain it immediately, but the person in front of him was different. He was the Minister of Military Affairs of PAJR, the highest official after the President of PAJR and the Speaker of the Parliament. He was not a direct military leader of the army, but he was not a pure scientist. To some extent, he was a military politician. A super senior military advisor of PAJR. When such a person asks himself such a question, his purpose is not to find out the practicality of the weapon, nor the principle of design. What he will explore is whether these things are really designed by Yang Mu himself. Admittedly, the 3 drawings released by Yang Mu in just over a year may be the design results that another person or even a team can get in their lifetime, but such things all appear on Yang Mu alone, which is a bit scary. No wonder he attracted so much attention from the other party. Yang Mu felt cold sweat on his back at this moment. In the eyes of such a person who used strategies and scheming to the extreme, even if his mental age was the same as the other party, he was still at a disadvantage. After Suze Hanai finished speaking, he stood beside Yang Mu, waiting for Yang Mu to give a reply. Yang Mu also paused for a moment with an expressionless face before explaining. Report to the commander. I have been involved in these things since before high school. I learned them step by step through a lot of study and the guidance of teachers in Kunlun College. Yang Mu really didn't know how to explain all this, and could only use a general reason to fool the other party. As soon as he said this, Yang Mu regretted it even more. With such a general statement, the other party could not have known that he was fooling him. Kid. Since you don't want to say it, I won't force it. What surprised Yang Mu was that after he said this, Suze Hanai actually answered him like this, as if he didn't want to go into it further. Yang Mu was surprised and relieved at the same time. In the face of such a task, he really couldn't come up with a good reason to cover it all. At this time, Suze Hanai asked the question again. I heard that this appointment was proposed by you. Suze Hanai sat back in his seat again, looked at Yang Mu, and spoke. Yang Mu nodded and replied, yes, although I designed those things, I hope to be able to use my talents on the battlefield. I don't like research, I like fighting, and I'm better at fighting. Yang Mu said this loudly, and his expression was very firm. Suze Hanai also looked at Yang Mu, and after a moment, he suddenly spoke. Since you said so, I hope you can do all this better. I will always pay attention to you. You are a hero of the Republic, and you can't lose the face of the Republic. Yes, Yang Mu stood up and replied loudly, but Suze Hanai suddenly looked at Yang Mu with complicated eyes, and then spoke again. I heard that you and Xiaoming are friends. When the other party asked this question, Yang Mu was stunned for a moment, with a lot of question marks on his head. Su Yuanming. He is my son Su Yuanming. These 3 words came out of Suze Hanai's mouth. Although Yang Mu was prepared, he was still shocked and speechless. It turned out that his guess was correct. The person in front of him was indeed Su Yuanming's father. I didn't expect that I was related to the person in front of Suze Hanai to some extent. Sir, Yang Mu wanted to explain something, but was interrupted by the other party. Suze Hanai suddenly said to Yang Mu. Since you want to be Xiaoming's friend, I hope you treat him sincerely. Yang Mu felt Suze Hanai's piercing eyes again, pursed his lips and nodded. Okay, go out, someone will arrange for you to go to Zinking 4-star, Suze Hanai said to Yang Mu and waved his hand. Yang Mu also saluted and stepped out. Seeing the door slowly close, Suze Hanai lowered his eyes and thought for a moment, then clicked on the smart panel of the desk in front of him, and a file about Yang Mu popped up. Suze Hanai didn't pass by here by chance, nor did he come here to meet Yang Mu on a whim. Every winner of the Hero Medal has a special tracking method, and the military will monitor their actions at all times. On the one hand, it is to ensure their safety, and on the other hand, it is to know their latest movements. And this Yang Mu is also a more important person. The action to rescue the other party was announced by Suze Hanai. Since then, Suze Hanai has also begun to pay attention to this kid. From the information reported, Suze Hanai got a shocking news. Such a person from a military family was mediocre before going to Kunlun College, but after arriving at Kunlun College, he did so many incredible things in such a short time. This is undoubtedly unimaginable. And this guy made so many contributions in such a short time, and even received a hero medal from the country. The boy in front of him is really too special. His file was included in the confidential file when the magical medal was included in the confidential file. It has even been included in the strategic list. It is a talent that must not be lost. But the other party is too young, which is a disadvantage, but also an advantage. He can grow up to his heart's content and can also not be noticed by other countries. As long as he grows step by step, he will definitely become an excellent talent. Therefore, Suzhanai's purpose of coming here was to test the other party, to find out what kind of person this person is, to ensure his absolute loyalty to PAJR. More importantly, it was to warn the other party and let him know that he has been watched. But when he saw the other party, Suzhanai suddenly gave up this idea, because this young face made Suzhanai suddenly feel that this person can be trusted. Chapter 234 Zinking 4 stars. We will arrive at the ground base in 2 minutes. Everyone, start packing your equipment. In the smoke-filled cabin of the transport plane, Yang Mu sat in the innermost corner, watching the burly men in front of him packing their things one by one. The White Tiger Mecha Regiment of the 3rd Legion of the New Star Domain is a well-known mecha regiment with strong combat power, but it is also a mecha regiment with extremely rough style. Yang Mu didn't feel very hungry at first, but he accepted this statement from the fact that everyone in the cabin was smoking. The military clearly stipulates that smoking is only allowed during wartime and rest, and there are certain conditions and restrictions. But here, Yang Mu saw with his own eyes that the team leader distributed cigarettes to everyone and guaranteed that there was no problem with smoking here. Yang Mu also got one. Originally, Yang Mu refused, but the other party forced it into Yang Mu's hand and did not allow him to refuse. The cabin shook for a while, and finally stopped slowly. The team leader shouted again, and Yang Mu also stood up with everyone else, and at the same time checked his backpack again to confirm that nothing was missing. Young men, from this moment on, no matter what you are doing, open your eyes wide. Zinking 4 stars is not a place for vacation. Everything flying in the sky and walking on the ground here wants to eat your eyeballs, but you are soldiers of the White Tiger Regiment. What you have to do is to eat them before they want to eat you. Do you understand? I understand. In the cabin, the team leader said loudly to the people in the cabin while walking. These young people with young faces and strong bodies who came here are all new recruits, just recruited from the new Song Star region. Although the White Tiger Regiment is a fully mechanized regiment-level combat unit, it has a lot of heavy equipment here, which requires soldiers to operate. To put it bluntly, these people are the auxiliary forces attached to the White Tiger Mecha Regiment. To some extent, they are all the logistics of the White Tiger Mecha Regiment. That's right. These people can only serve as logistics in the White Tiger Mecha Regiment. Everyone who can drive a combat mecha in the White Tiger Mecha Regiment is a good player who is 1 in 1,000 or 10,000. In the entire cabin, except for Yang Mu who was wearing the shoulder straps of a lieutenant, all these people were under the command of this team leader. Our comrade, Lieutenant, how are you? Are you excited to be here? The team leader with a fierce face and a cigarette butt in his mouth walked to Yang Mu, looking at Yang Mu with a playful look in his eyes. In his opinion, such a thin and young guy who came here with the rank of lieutenant was undoubtedly here to gild himself. Such a guy would probably be scared to pee after walking out of here. Yang Mu still lowered his head to organize his things, completely ignoring the other party. Only when he put his backpack on his back did he raise his head, reveal a warm smile, and speak. Of course, I have been looking forward to it for a long time. Seeing Yang Mu's counterattack against him, as if he didn't take him seriously at all, the team leader also glared at Yang Mu, and then glanced at Yang Mu's shoulder straps again. The expression on his face was very unconvinced, but he still turned around and spoke loudly in the cabin with an unhappy expression. Everyone, get ready to leave the cabin, run to leave the cabin. As soon as the words fell, the cabin door in front of everyone opened suddenly, and then pouring rain poured in, and at the same time there was a roaring sound. That was the sound of the vertical landing engine of the aerospace plane, and outside, the transport metro was moving, and from time to time there were trailers dragging various supplies away. The team leader rushed out with a group of people. Although Yang Mu was not with them, he also walked out quickly. The big raindrops hit Yang Mu's body, and Yang Mu's clothes were almost wet in an instant. Yang Mu had to speed up his pace, quickly looked around, and then walked towards the helipad not far from the venue. Zinking 4 stars is a planet that was discovered more than 10 years ago, but the operating system of this planet was different at that time. The orbit of the planet from the star is normal, but there are 2 small satellites around Zinking 4 stars. The interesting point is that these 2 small satellites sometimes operate alone and sometimes capture each other. This chaotic orbit eventually leads to a large deviation in the tides of the entire planet, and there are often big storms on this planet. However, No matter how bad the planet is, it cannot stop the pace of human colonization. After discovering that this planet is an ecological planet, humans immediately began to develop this planet. However, after being embarrassed and driven back to space many times by the huge storms of the planet, humans who have learned a lesson thought of a way to conquer this planet. They drove the interstellar mothership and used particle cannons to directly bombard the smaller of the two satellites that were capturing each other at the time. The huge explosion caused the two satellites to cross the gravitational boundary. The two satellites collided violently, and the smaller one shattered, part of it merged into the other satellite, and the rest scattered, forming a faint star ring around zinking 4 stars. On a clear night, this thin star ring can be clearly seen. Humans transformed this planet with this crude method, and at the same time, because the gravitational tide became relatively stable, the ecology of this planet gradually improved, so humans accelerated the pace to conquer this planet. However, a common problem appeared on many planets in the new Song Star region. The primitive creatures here are relatively large, and the expedition team cannot clean them up in time. At the same time, a small city is gradually built, and it is impossible to fully defend it by relying on civilian forces. The Star Region Army sent several troops here. The White Tiger Mecha Regiment, as one of them, also came here. However, the mission of the White Tiger Mecha Regiment is different. In addition to clearing the primitive creatures above level 3 that attack the city on this planet, the White Tiger Mecha has more tasks to conduct combat readiness training. This is a Mecha Regiment for external operations. In other words, even if there is an uncontrollable situation on the planet inside the new Song Star region, this Mecha Regiment will only be deployed at the last moment. Yang Mu stood on the apron, watching the dense raindrops falling outside, stretched out his hand to twist the water stains on his body, and then looked around. Surrounded by busy ground crews, Yang Mu walked up to a person and asked where the 13th Mecha Squadron was stationed. But what surprised Yang Mu was that when he asked this question, the sergeant suddenly looked up and looked at Yang Mu carefully, then pointed in a direction and sighed. Yang Mu also saw a regretful expression on his face. Although he didn't know what was going on, Yang Mu still expressed his gratitude and continued to stand aside, thinking about waiting for the raindrops to subside before going. After about 20 minutes, the rain gradually subsided. Yang Mu was about to set off when a buzzing sound sounded. Yang Mu suddenly saw an off-road vehicle in the rain driving towards this side at a very fast speed. Yang Mu hurriedly stood aside, but the off-road vehicle suddenly stopped in front of him, and the rain splashed by the tires all splashed on Yang Mu. This. Lieutenant Star, I want to ask you something, the driver spoke at this time, but Yang Mu heard a bright voice. He looked up and saw that the guy driving the off-road vehicle was a female soldier in military uniform. The other party had an arrogant attitude at first, but after seeing the military rank on Yang Mu's shoulder strap, his tone softened a little. Is there anyone named Yang Mu here? The female soldier asked again, but Yang Mu was stunned for a moment, then raised his hand and pointed at himself. I am Yang Mu, you? The newly appointed deputy captain of the 13th Mecha Squadron. The female soldier seemed to be unconvinced and asked for confirmation. Yang Mu nodded. The other party hesitated and glanced in front of Yang Mu for a moment, and finally pointed to the back. Get in. When Yang Mu heard what the other party said, he immediately opened the car door, put the things in, and sat in. Why is there such a young guy here? The car started, and Yang Mu heard this sentence muttered from the other party's mouth. Chapter 235 First Entry. The sky was beautiful. After a short while, the afternoon sun penetrated the dark clouds and shone on the lush green land. The off-road vehicle drove for a few minutes and finally stopped in front of a row of neat barracks. There were several huge steel-frame camouflage iron sheds standing around the barracks. Yang Mu knew it was the Mecha warehouse at a glance. The White Tiger Mecha Regiment has 18 Mecha teams, each with 5 mechas, a total of 90 mechas, plus various transportation and maintenance equipment, a total of 150 machines. After getting off the car with his things and putting them on his back again, Yang Mu felt sticky and prepared to find a place to wash up first. Walking into the yard, the first person Yang Mu saw was a person coming out of a room in the camp. A man with chestnut red drooping hair, with a sloppy aura, was carrying a bottle of wine and staggering out of the door, his eyes staring straight at Yang Mu. Yang Mu looked at each other and was thinking about whether he needed to say hello to the other party. At this time, a voice came from the side. Are you Yang Mu? A gentle voice came from a female mouth. Yang Mu turned his head and looked in the direction of the voice. He saw a graceful figure with long straight black hair walking towards him. Her curvy figure was highlighted by a decent military uniform, and the whole person looked very elegant. Seeing the other party's shoulder badge, Yang Mu knew that the person coming was the captain of this mecha team, a female captain with the rank of mid-star lieutenant. Yang Mu turned around, saluted the other party solemnly, and said loudly, "Yes, Captain." The female captain walked forward, raised her almond-shaped eyes slightly, looked at Yang Mu, and opened her red lips. "Please let me verify your identity first." The female captain said so, and at the same time called out her military personal terminal. Yang Mu also stretched out his hand at the right time and let the other party's instrument scan the chip under his skin. Rows of data and pictures were displayed, and the other party carefully confirmed Yang Mu's identity. At this time, the female soldier who had just driven to pick up Yang Mu also came over and put her hand on the female captain's shoulder without caring, and also looked at the data about Yang Mu on it. 19 years old? No way. Seeing the age on Yang Mu's information, the female soldier with neat short hair said in surprise. Her eyes kept switching between Yang Mu's face and the projection panel. "Hey, kid, are you the son of a general, running here to get killed?" Yang Mu just smiled and looked at it, standing on this side, and didn't say anything. The information about Yang Mu displayed on it was not detailed, but it showed that Yang Mu graduated from a military academy and served as the deputy captain of this mecha team after graduation. The female soldier asked again, and Yang Mu just pointed to the data on it. At this time, the sloppy soldier also came over and stood beside Yang Mu with a burp. "This little brother, is he our deputy captain? Let me introduce myself. My name is Kunsang." The other party grinned and said to Yang Mu, wiping his dirty military uniform with his hand before reaching out to Yang Mu. Yang Mu turned around and nodded with a smile. Seeing the other party's hand extended to him, he also stretched out his hand and shook it directly. "My name is Yang Mu. Let's get along well in the future." Hearing Yang Mu's words and watching Yang Mu's actions, Kunsang obviously raised his eyebrows, and was very surprised at Yang Mu's frankness. The female captain and female soldier standing aside also watched Yang Mu's actions, and their expressions changed a little. Obviously, they saw that Yang Mu didn't mind Kunsang's slovenliness, but was willing to integrate into it, so he left a good impression. He didn't have the kind of domineering and arrogant rich kid that everyone imagined. The three of them also initially accepted Yang Mu. "I have read the information, Comrade Yang Mu. Welcome to join the 13th Squadron of the White Tiger Mecha Regiment." The female captain also spoke at this time, standing at attention and saluted Yang Mu. "My name is Shen Lan, and I am the captain of the Mecha Squad. I hope you can use your talents here. I guarantee to complete the mission." Yang Mu also saluted and said seriously. At this time, the female soldier standing next to him also stepped forward and said to Yang Mu, "Hello, Deputy Captain, my name is Liu Wei. You can call me Xiao Wei, but it would be better if you are willing to call me Sister Wei Wei." The short-haired female soldier said this, and the expression on her face became very expectant, and her eyes narrowed slightly. "Xiao Wei, speak properly." However, as soon as the words came out, Shen Lan, who was standing next to him, spoke up and reprimanded Liu Wei in a serious tone. Liu Wei rolled his eyes, pouted, and stood aside. Shen Lan continued to speak to Yang Mu. "Let Kunsang take you to the dormitory. If you have anything, you can come to me there. Have a good rest today. We will hold a team meeting tomorrow." Shen Lan said this to Yang Mu, and Yang Mu nodded, indicating that he understood. "Hey, Joe Kun, where's Richard?" At this time, Liu Wei asked Kunsang, who was standing next to him drinking alone. Obviously, there was still a team member who had not come. "That old guy, he doesn't repair his things. He has been cleaning his knife in the room every day these days." Hearing Kunsang say this, Quilan and Liu Wei didn't seem to have much reaction to this sentence. They just nodded, and Yang Mu didn't take it to heart. "Okay, you take Yang Shaoxing with you to the dormitory." Shen Lan didn't say much, but asked Kunsang to take Yang Mu to the dormitory. Yang Mu also felt that he should change his wet clothes as soon as possible, but he didn't refuse. He said hello to the two people and followed Kunsang to the barracks on the side. "Where are you from, brother?" Yang Mu followed Kunsang to the barracks, and the other party followed Yang Mu and asked. "New Star Domain," Yang Mu replied. "New Song Star Region." Hearing that Yang Mu was actually from New Song Star Region, but came to New Song Star region to serve as a soldier, but after a moment of surprise, he was relieved. He was not a soldier, and the officers were assigned regardless of region. That's quite far, Kun Sang spoke again, and then suddenly approached Yang Mu mysteriously, pointed his finger and asked, "Hey, what do you think of our captain, Captain Kui?" "What do you mean?" Yang Mu asked with some confusion, but the other party said to Yang Mu in disbelief. "Tisk, of course it's the figure. How is it, hot or not? You won't tell me that you didn't dare to look at it just now." Yang Mu immediately rolled his eyes at the guy in front of him. He didn't expect that this sloppy-looking man was not so pure in his heart. "Okay. I know you must like it, I understand even if you don't say it." Before Yang Mu could refute the other party looked at Yang Mu with a smirk, and then said to Yang Mu with an expression of "I know." Yang Mu stopped at this time, turned around and looked at the other party. Kun Sang was obviously stunned by Yang Mu's sudden action, and also stopped to look at Yang Mu. Yang Mu looked at the other party all over, then reached out to button up the other party's discipline button, and at the same time adjusted the other party's hat. "Stand at attention," Yang Mu shouted loudly, and Kun Sang stood up as if by reflex, just looking at Yang Mu in confusion, not knowing the intention of Yang Mu's sudden action. "Kun Sang, the star officer, I hope you can understand your position. Put away your look. This is a military camp, not a bar downstairs in your house." Yang Mu's stern words rang out, but Kun Sang didn't understand why Yang Mu's attitude suddenly changed. Yang Mu also saw the other party's appearance, took a step forward, looked into the other party's eyes and said, "Although I am not as old as you, I am your superior after all. There are some things that I don't need to tell you, so you know what to do, right?" The army is a place with a strong class atmosphere. This is determined by the nature of the army. If you want the army to exert its combat effectiveness, it needs strong control. Soldiers must obey their superiors absolutely. This is something that everyone must remember when they enter the army. Yang Mu's actions can be regarded as a warning to the other party. Although Yang Mu is willing to get along with the other party, there is a prerequisite, that is, they respect Yang Mu, at least in front of Yang Mu. Yang Mu's actions can be regarded as slowly establishing his own prestige, but Kun Sang is unlucky and became the first soldier to be treated with a show of force by Yang Mu. "Where is my dormitory?" Yang Mu asked. Kun Sang pointed to the barracks next to him. Yang Mu turned his head, walked over, and pushed the door in. Only Kun Sang was left standing outside the door, not knowing what was going on. Chapter 236 Team Meeting. Yang Mu put his things in the room, washed up, and then cleaned the room carefully inside and outside. This room was not new. There were many other personal items here. It seemed that they were used by the previous person. Yang Mu did not say much, but just cleared out some things that he did not need. "My deputy captain, how did I offend you?" At this time, Kun Sang, who was standing by the door, looked at Yang Mu with a bitter face. It was obvious that he was very confused about the lesson Yang Mu had given him before. Yang Mu did not explain to him, nor did he express his intentions. He just cleaned up by himself. Yang Mu was still wrong. The guy in front of him did not play by the rules at all. Although he expressed his serious attitude, the other party did not take it seriously at all and still stuck to him like a dog-skin plaster. Yang Mu could not stand him, so he asked the other party, "Who used this room originally?" Hearing Yang Mu's question, the other party also took the opportunity to speak directly. "This was used by the former deputy captain, but that guy was unlucky. Half a month ago, he went out hunting and was attacked by a saber-toothed tiger. In the end, only half of his body was found, but let me tell you, I heard that this guy wanted to please the captain, but ended up being the beast's dinner." Alice, a lovesick man, died miserably. As he said this, Kun Sang's face was full of gloating. Kun Sang immediately took advantage of the situation and started talking to himself, not paying any attention to whether Yang Mu wanted to hear this. When Yang Mu heard this, he paused for a moment, thinking of the ground staff he met at the airport, and the expression on his face when he learned that he was going to the 13th team. Yang Mu suddenly became curious about what the 13th team was like. "Kun Sang, what do outsiders think of the 13th team?" Yang Mu asked. Kun Sang looked over, but his expression became a little embarrassed, and then he spoke. "Alice, to be honest, our 13th team is not very famous." "What's the matter?" Yang Mu asked with surprise. "I had not carefully understood the internal situation of this team before, and I was a little surprised at this moment, so I hurriedly asked, It's a long story. Anyway, our team's mechas soldiers have been replaced several times in the past 2 years. Except for the captain, the 4 of us in our team have all been replaced. Aren't we a combat team? It should be normal to have casualties, right? No, it's not normal at all. Our team is the most diligent in changing people in the entire mecha regiment. In the past 2 years at zinking 4 stars, other teams have changed at most 1 or 2, but we are like changing clothes every day. Others say that our team's serial number is unlucky, 13. They say that because of this, one by one, they all ended up feeding the beasts on this planet, Kunsang said solemnly, as if he believed the explanation given by others. But Yang Mu just shrugged and smiled. This kind of thing can only mean that there are problems in the team, but it is definitely not caused by such illusory things. Yang Mu believed that this was due to the contingency of the incident, and that it might be some reasons in the battle. This is something that needs to be thought about, but since I am here, I will pay more attention to these things, and I will help to correct them when the time comes. Yang Mu did not talk about this topic with the other party anymore, but after cleaning up the room, he asked the other party to take him to the cafeteria. This is a cafeteria in the mecha regiment's residence. The food is not rich, but the quantity is large and full, and Yang Mu also had a full meal. The food here is not rich, and a big reason should be that there is no good environment here to grow vegetables and food. These things all rely on supplies shipped from the surrounding planets. After eating, Yang Mu also walked around and was considered to be a preliminary familiarity with the environment here. Taking a deep breath of the air here, Yang Mu slowly opened his eyes and looked at the starry sky at night. After a moment, he sighed deeply. I finally came to this unfamiliar place and started another life of my own. This is my own choice, and I hope I can grasp it well in the days to come. After standing on the grass beside the camp for a while, there were already mosquitoes aplenty here in the spring, so Yang Mu didn't want to stay any longer. Just as he was about to go back to his room, Kun Sang came to find him. Meeting? Now, yeah, the captain said so. I don't know what it is about. The meeting was supposed to be tomorrow, but now they are in a hurry to have a meeting less than half a day after arriving. It seems that this matter is also very urgent. Yang Mu did not delay and followed Kun Sang directly to the direction of the meeting room. When they arrived at the small meeting room, there were 3 people sitting inside, Shen Lan, Liu Wei, and a middle-aged uncle with some gray hair. It seemed that he should be Richard mentioned before. Yang Mu and Kun Sang walked in, and the 3 of them also looked over. Yang Mu greeted them all. After a brief self-introduction, everyone sat down, and at this time Shen Lan also took out a button-sized projector and placed it on the table. The projector immediately projected a holographic 3-dimensional map. We called everyone here today because something happened suddenly. Someone from above suddenly came down to inspect. The superior ordered us to do an exercise with several other teams. This is the site and plan for the exercise. Let's take a look first, Shen Lan said carefully, and distributed the exercise plan to everyone's military personal terminal. Yang Mu also lowered his head and examined it carefully. After a moment, he raised his head, and the other people also raised their heads one after another. Who is the big shot who came to inspect this time? Richard, who was sitting next to him, spoke first. I don't know. The superior only said that someone would come to inspect and let us be prepared. In a hunting-style battle, can't we use hot weapons? Liu Wei asked, seeming to care about this. Well, it is said that it is to increase the viewing experience. The exercise will be held in 5 days. I will submit the plan today. What do you think? What ideas can we have? We will do whatever the superior says. Kun Sang crossed his hands behind his head at this time, and said indifferently, but Yang Mu spoke. What is the level of the hunted creatures? How dangerous are they? Shen Lan looked up at Yang Mu and explained. Most of them are level 3 creatures, and 2 level 4 creatures will be released at the end. Hearing the other party's words, Yang Mu frowned. On this planet, humans have classified the huge protozoa into different levels. Level 1 refers to those that can be quickly killed by thermal weapons, and they increase in order. Level 3 protozoa require a mecha team to hunt them down, and level 4 creatures are even more terrifying, requiring the cooperation of various forces. There are also level 5 and level 6 creatures above them, but the level 5 protozoa that humans have killed so far was killed by a small thermonuclear bomb. In such an exercise, there will actually be 2 level 4 protozoa appearing at the end, and it seems that only a few mecha teams will work together to hunt them. But the problem is that thermal weapons cannot be used, which is a big problem when hunting level 4 protozoa. There was a flash of worry in everyone's eyes. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 237 Richard's Warning. The sudden exercise mission also gave everyone a headache. After a night of conversation, Yang Mu and everyone else couldn't come up with any good ideas. They could only say that they would take a look at the mecha first, and then modify some combat plans based on the mecha, hoping to make some changes. So early in the morning, Yang Mu had already gotten up. After a simple exercise, washing and breakfast, Yang Mu opened the mechanical door of the tall mecha warehouse next to him. The shutter-style door slowly opened, and Yang Mu also saw the situation inside. 5 halberd-cutting mechas were displayed in order. This is a new standard mecha that the new Song Star domain has begun to equip. The White Tiger Regiment belongs to the first-class mecha regiment. Although it does not reach the level of a special elite mecha squad, the standard mecha it is equipped with is still the world's leading new model. As far as Yang Mu knows, this halberd-chopping mecha has reached the world's leading level in various performances. It is equipped with a portable electromagnetic mecha rifle, 2 retractable folding chain swords, dual main engines on the back of the mecha, up to 12 auxiliary engines on the limbs, and advanced fire control, observation, and control systems. All components are made by first-class military factories. The built-in and back weapon racks have a capacity of more than 9 tons of ammunition. After reducing the thickness of the armor and the number of spare batteries, the ammunition capacity can exceed 10 tons. At the same time, the basic armor of the equipment is extremely thick, using a mixture of polymer carbon fiber materials, and its strength exceeds that of most armor-piercing shells. At the same time, the cockpit uses a cradle system, and the entire cockpit escape mechanism is perfect. This is a brand new mecha that the new Song Star domain has spent more than 10 years developing. It was once a common class Tengsh mecha that could be compared with the ordinary Tengsh mecha developed by Yan Shenfu. Therefore, in the 4 or 5 years since it was put into service, this mecha has quickly gained a foothold, and its foreign trade version has also quickly occupied various international markets. However, the shortcomings of this mecha are also obvious. Because of its outstanding performance, the manufacturing materials required are more numerous and precious, and the manufacturing cost has risen accordingly. At the same time, the maintenance cost is also relatively high. Therefore, the new Song Star region has not been equipped on a large scale, and it only exists in some Class A mecha regiments. After opening all the doors of the warehouse, Yang Mu changed his work clothes and turned to walk to a military green mecha next to him. White Tiger 02 mecha, this is the number of this mecha, and it also indicates that it will be Yang Mu's partner for a period of time. This mecha is a long-range sniper mecha assigned to Yang Mu. Although the mecha has been divided into different tasks, the performance has not been adjusted much, except that the arm and leg support frames of the mecha have been strengthened. After talking with other team members yesterday, Yang Mu also learned some things about them. In this 5-person mecha team, the captain Shenlan uses a comprehensive mecha, the short-haired girl Liu Wei uses a firepower mecha, the sloppy Kun Sang uses a scout mecha, and as for the professional veteran Richard, who is estimated to be nearly 40 years old, he uses a defensive mecha. Everyone has their own division of labor. Yang Mu filled in the information that he was good at long-range mechas, so this mecha fell into Yang Mu's hands. But the funny thing is that in the exercises a few days later, they can't use the ability of long-range mechas, and can only fight with cold weapons, which will greatly limit the performance of their mechas. Yang Mu even felt that the people who came to visit were ridiculous and unreasonable. Even if it was for viewing, the battle of mechas couldn't be joked about. But this was something Yang Mu couldn't change now. The people below could only complain a few words about the ideas above. When it came to execution, they could only do it as they should. Since the overall situation could not be changed, Yang Mu could only learn about these mechas and try to see if some changes could be made. As a first-class mecha regiment, each mecha team has its own mecha maintenance team. The 13th team also has a 40-person maintenance team to help the mecha team with daily mecha maintenance and emergency repairs during combat. Today is Sunday, there is no emergency, and the maintenance team will only do a basic maintenance inspection later. Of course, everyone in the team knows some maintenance knowledge, especially Richard. From yesterday's conversation, Yang Mu also knew that this guy was originally a chief mechanic, and finally became a mecha soldier inexplicably. The salary for this job is also very good, so he just did it. The other party said yesterday that he would come to help, but it seems that at least he will not come now. But whether the other party comes or not, Yang Mu himself will also conduct a thorough inspection of his mecha. This is Yang Mu's habit. This is his weapon on the battlefield. He must know the status of even every screw clearly. Only in this way can he exert the strength that this mecha should have on the battlefield. He did it right away. Yang Mu walked forward and pressed a button. The number 3 mecha was driven out by the hinge. At the same time, the intelligent engineering frame next to it came forward and fixed the mecha. Yang Mu also reached out and climbed up and began to check the status of the mecha. Skillfully opening the cockpit, Yang Mu got in first, used the display panel and connector in his hand to read the data in the mecha, and pre-opened the mecha to check the status of each system in it. The condition is very good. The maintenance and upkeep of the mecha is very good. At least Yang Mu can't find any big problems now. However, Yang Mu also quickly discovered the difference. Perhaps for the sake of convenience, the pilot used the usual data for some valve parameters of this mecha. For example, in terms of braking, the output of the brake valve of the upper limb of this mecha should be larger, but the data read is no different from the standard type. Although there is nothing wrong with such a setting, even under such a setting, the explosion accidents caused by the loss of control of the energy valve of the mecha can be reduced, but in Yang Mu's opinion, this is not good. This will mean that he has no way to release the strength that this mecha should have, so Yang Mu moved his fingers and entered the administrator's command on the display panel to increase the valve value. After the system data of the mecha was adjusted, Yang Mu got out of the hatch and prepared to take a look at the hardware of this mecha. At this time, Yang Mu happened to see the figure standing at the door of the warehouse, Richard. Morning, Yang Xingwei. Richard seemed to have stood there for a long time, with his hands on his chest, showing his upper body muscles completely, and his muscles bulging as if they were about to burst the shirt on his body. Good morning. Yang Mu glanced at him, said hello, then flexibly came out of the cockpit, got down from the shelf, walked to the side, found a large wrench, and returned to the shelf. During the whole process, Richard stood at the door and had no intention of coming forward to help. Yang Mu ignored him and got busy on his own. He knocked on the leg joints of the mecha with a wrench. Yang Mu listened carefully, then used the wrench to tighten the self-tightening screws, loosened them, tightened them again, and then returned them half a circle. What? Don't you believe in the strength of our mechanic team? Richard, who was standing behind, had been watching Yang Mu dizzy. Seeing that Yang Mu had tightened every visible screw himself, he came over and spoke. Yang Mu turned his head and looked at him, then smiled and explained. No, it's just a personal habit. Richard also laughed twice, but there was no sound again. A moment later, when Yang Mu was checking the situation at the engine behind the mecha, Richard spoke. Boy, I think you are a capable person, so find a way to transfer as soon as possible. As soon as Richard said this, Yang Mu was stunned, leaned over to look at him, and was a little surprised. Humph, I saw that you are young, and you are a junior lieutenant at such a young age. If you die here, your family will be very sad. Is it dangerous here? Of course it is not dangerous here, and this planet is not dangerous either. What is dangerous is this unit, the White Tiger Mecha Regiment. Yang Mu still didn't understand what the other party meant. He and the other party had just met. Why did the other party say such a thing to him? I know you don't believe it, but you have to understand that this is a Mecha Regiment for external combat. To put it bluntly, you can lie here now, and tomorrow, you may be on a battlefield on an alien planet. Richard said this, with a fierce look on his face, but Yang Mu's face flashed a smile, walked in front of the mecha, and interrupted the other party's words. Richard, let me ask you, are you here for retirement or for gilding, huh? Richard opened his mouth and frowned. Of course not, that's right, I'm not either. Chapter 238 Disagreement. Yang Mu said this, then turned around and started his maintenance work. Richard was confused by Yang Mu's question, and he came to his senses after a while and laughed a few times. Boy, I'm not kidding you. Young people like you are full of passion and have only the idea of sacrificing your life. Richard said this, but his tone suddenly changed. But this is a real army. Not your original military academy, people will die here. Richard didn't seem to give up teaching Yang Mu a lesson, and said loudly, but Yang Mu looked at him, sighed, and walked down. Richard, I don't care why you insist on letting me go, but I've made it clear, I'm not here to gild myself, nor am I here to retire. Dead people? I've seen a lot of dead people. Don't define me like this just because of my age. So what about the foreign mecha regiment? I believe I won't die here, Yang Mu said loudly, rebuking the other party's depressed mentality, but Richard's expression did not change. He just looked at Yang Mu with a somewhat lonely look. The two stood in this warehouse. Richard sighed deeply, leaned against the shelf beside him, took out a pack of cigarettes from his pocket, and was about to light one. Yang Mu reached out and grabbed the cigarette in the other party's hand, threw it on the ground and stepped on it. This is a warehouse, no smoking, Yang Mu said to the other party seriously, and the other party nodded and put the things away. You should have heard something about our 13th mech squadron, right? Richard suddenly said this, changing his attitude of lecturing himself just now, and now it was like chatting with an old friend about an ordinary matter. Yang Mu glanced at him and said nothing. The 13th mech squadron has changed 7 people so far, and these 7 people, Richard said this, turning his head to look at Yang Mu. They're all young people in their early 20s, Yang Mu looked at him again, and obviously heard something different from his words. 7 people, 4 died at the hands of the native creatures of this planet, and the other 3 died in foreign wars. You may not understand what I said, but these people have a lot in common with you. They are young and fearless, and they think they can do everything and are full of enthusiasm for everything. Richard paused and looked at the scenery outside the warehouse and said, but often they are so passionate that they get carried away and are eager to show themselves, and finally lose their lives. At this point, Richard laughed twice. It's funny, I know the names of all these people, they are all guys who can get along with me, but in the end, they all died in front of me. Hearing this, Yang Mu felt that he knew something, some reasons why Richard said that. Do you think you harmed them? Yang Mu asked, but the other party shook his head. It's not me who harmed them, it's this mecha group that harmed them. Young guys, with a lot of youth, died like this in the end, Richard said with some loss, and reached out to touch the shell of the mecha next to him, as if he was reminiscing about the past. After listening to the other party's words, Yang Mu looked at him deeply. Looking at this middle-aged man in his early 40s who already had some white hair on his temples, Yang Mu finally spoke. Casualties in the army are inevitable, and if you just let them escape, I can only say that your idea is stupid. Yang Mu said this lightly. And then he didn't say anything more to the other party, turned around and continued to do his own things. Yesterday, Kunsang also told me about this matter, but he regarded it as the curse of the number 13. Now, this guy, who is also experienced, attributed the cause of all this to the nature of the mecha regiment. Yang Mu has long been accustomed to life and death, and knows that there will be some superstitions among soldiers, but these statements cannot convince Yang Mu. Especially Richard's generalization is even a bit radical. Just because the dead are young people in their early 20s, they don't want such young people to appear in the mecha regiment again. But Yang Mu is now more interested in why the 13th Legion has so many casualties. Yang Mu is now very curious about what the other 2 girls think about this matter. But let's talk about this later. Now the matter is to check the mecha in front of him carefully. Seeing that Yang Mu no longer pays attention to him, Richard just sighed, and then he also checked his mecha next to him. After a long time, when the soldiers and pilots of the maintenance team came here, they looked at the 2 mechas that had been completely overhauled, and everyone's eyes showed surprise. At the same time, zinking 4-star Colony City 1. This human colony city, which has just been established for less than a year, is in a period of great construction. This city located on the plain is now expanding madly, attracting more interstellar pioneers to come here. In a metal building in the center of Colony City 1, the temporary city manager, the administrator Gray, is meeting a colony inspection team that came for preliminary inspection. Mr. Kong, welcome to your arrival. It's a pleasure to meet you today. Gray, who was dressed neatly, smiled and said, and at the door of the office, a middle-aged man with a big belly and Mediterranean hair slowly walked in. The 2 attendants next to him were wiping his sweat. It seemed that his fat body caused him a lot of confusion. Director Jack, this city is still too hot, Kong Si said. Yes, it's still under construction, and some aspects have been neglected. Please forgive me, Director Jack kept smiling, But the man surnamed Kong ignored him and sat down on the big chair in the office. He looked like he was treating this place as his own territory. Director Ge's eyelids twitched when he saw Kong C's actions, but he still smiled and greeted him. Director Jack, have we arranged our inspection matters? This is an important task for our group now, Kong Xian said in a high-handed manner, but Director Je smiled and said. The military has been prepared for the exercise. The White Tiger Mecha Regiment will personally take part in the exercise and will definitely bring you the most valuable information. Oh? Why is the military so cooperative this time? Kong Xian seemed very surprised when he heard this, and then looked at Director Je with a smug expression. Gray could only explain that this was for the sake of colonization, but in fact, this matter was not so simple. It was just that the new Songstar Region Administration Office had not allocated the funds needed for colonization to the Zerg, and had always relied on the support of the consortium behind the guy in front of him. Director Je wanted to increase the development efforts and make achievements as soon as possible, so he had to rely on the power of the group behind the guy in front of him. It was precisely because of this that in order for the other party's funds to be implemented this morning, Director Je talked with the military for a long time and paid a great price, and the other party agreed to help with such an exercise. Director Jack, our group has spent a lot of money here, and the higher-ups hope to get a bigger return from here, Kong Xian said to Director Je meaningfully, with a pair of small eyes full of brilliance. Chapter 239 Provocation. It has been proven that when a person shows enough effort, the people around him will be infected, and the whole team will change. For example, now, Yang Mu's efforts, regular daily routines and diligent work in the warehouse have finally led to changes in the entire mecha team. For example, now, the daily morning run project, from the original Yang Mu and Shen Lan, to Liu Wei and Richard, of course, for Kun Sang, this kind of thing is still a formality. He prefers to drink and sit in a cool place to watch the changes of zinking 4 stars throughout the spring. Yang Mu, do you have any other opinions on tomorrow's exercise? Shen Lan, who was wearing a training uniform, said to Yang Mu while running. Yang Mu turned his head to look at the other party and slowly replied. Did the specific plan have been arranged yesterday? I don't have any big opinions. Last night, the 5 people had another conversation and clarified the specific steps of this exercise. As a long-range mecha, Yang Mu became the most useless existence like Liu Wei's firepower mecha. Mecha soldiers who usually operate this kind of position are not very strong in close combat. Of course, this is the conclusion based on their ignorance of Yang Mu. Therefore, although Yang Mu was allowed to carry an electromagnetic sniper rifle, he was assigned a relatively marginal task. Yang Mu's main task is to help the entire team drive the prey to the designated location, and then assist the mecha with strong close combat to strangle it. The task is simple, and Yang Mu doesn't want to stand out all of a sudden, so he agreed. Seeing that Yang Mu didn't want to explain more about this matter, Shen Lan gradually stopped, looked at the young man, and then ran again. Shen Lan also wanted to take into account the thoughts of this newly appointed young deputy captain, but Yang Mu's ambiguous state made Shen Lan a little unsure of Yang Mu's thoughts. In the blink of an eye, it was the next day. After Yang Mu and his team had finished their preparations in the morning, everyone took their mechas and walked towards the venue scheduled for this exercise. The venue for the exercise was located in an area demarcated from the periphery of the newly built colonial city. This land area of only 2 square kilometers contains mountains, forests, plains, and rivers. The overall terrain tends to be flat. The reason for choosing this place is to be able to record better, so as to provide the observation team with other perspectives besides the mecha's built-in camera. The 5 halberd-cutting mechas arrived outside the venue on time under the transportation of the trailer, and here, Yang Mu also saw other teams that participated in this operation besides Yang Mu's 13th team. The second team, the 15th team. The White Tiger Mecha Regiment is divided into numbers based on strength, with the first team being the strongest, and the strength of the 15th team is comparable to that of the 13th team. At least in the eyes of Wei Gang, the captain of the 15th team, this is the case now. After the 13th squadron lost a combat member due to an accident, its strength was already affected, and the newly added mecha soldiers would inevitably need a running-in period, so the overall strength must have declined. The number of the White Tiger Mecha Regiment was obtained by relying on the strength of the squad, so Wei Gang had submitted his request in the past 2 days. And he would take the squad to the door and teach the other party a lesson with his strength after the exercise. Hey, Isn't this our beautiful Shenlan? Why, the Curse Squad is also here to join in the fun this time. The sturdy Wei Gang was not a simple-minded person with strong limbs. He had known about the other party's participation in the exercise for a long time, but he was just looking for an excuse to belittle the other party first. As he said this, Wei Gang looked at Shenlan's team with a strong sense of disdain, and his eyes swept over everyone in the 13th Squadron with contempt. Shenlan ignored the other party and just walked to hand in the combat materials. Yang Mu and others stood where they were, and at this time Wei Gang happened to notice Yang Mu's shoulder badge. Seeing Yang Mu's young face but with the rank of junior lieutenant, Wei Gang immediately understood something and walked forward with his legs swinging. Yang Mu naturally saw the other party walking towards him, but he ignored him and continued to mark on his personal terminal on paper map. This is Yang Mu's habit, marking these things on the actual paper so that he can record them in his mind. Hey, your team just found a guy who hasn't even grown all his hair as the deputy captain. Can such a young man withstand the torment of your captain? Wei Gang still walked forward arrogantly, as if he had a lot of opinions about Yang Mu in front of him. Yang Mu ignored him. The other party was just showing off his quick words. If he and the other party couldn't get along because of a few words, it would be Yang Mu's fault. Yang Mu didn't want to cause trouble, so he still lowered his head and sat down with his notes. At this time, Wei Gang, who was standing next to him, saw the attitude of this young man towards him, and immediately raised his eyebrows, then stretched out his hand with displeasure and directly knocked over the paper map in Yang Mu's hand. Hey, I'm talking to you, the commander is talking to you, what's your attitude, Wei, are you looking for death? Wei Gang's arrogant voice rang out. At this time, Liu Wei, who was standing next to him, couldn't stand it anymore and was about to step forward, but Yang Mu stretched out his hand to stop him. At this time, Shenlan's voice came from behind Wei Gang. Wei Gang, if you really want to make trouble, I guarantee that someone in your team will die in the exercise field today, Shenlan said with a cold face, and the whole person exuded a cold temperament. Obviously, Wei Gang was stunned after hearing the other party's words, and laughed awkwardly twice. He wanted to refute a few words, but at this time, another person's voice sounded next to him. The voice was very elegant and gentle. Yang Mu looked over and saw a tall man in neat combat uniform. The man was white and beardless, and he looked very handsome. He always had a slight smile on his face, which made him very approachable. However, Liu Wei, who was next to Yang Mu, rolled his eyes and seemed to dislike this man at all. Shenlan, girls should not be so violent. It's just a communication between comrades. Wei Gang just spoke a little roughly. The other party was on Shenlan's side on the surface, but when he spoke, his tone was obviously biased towards Wei Gang's side. Yang Mu immediately had a new understanding of this person. These people actually disdained the 13th team to some extent. And it seemed that they still wanted to find an opportunity to suppress the 13th team. This kind of wolf nature made Yang Mu very disliked. Shenlan, don't reject what I told you last time so quickly. Think about it carefully. I'll give you some time. This elegant guy said this, as if to ease the conflict between the two parties. Shenlan glanced at him coldly, while Liu Wei, who was standing next to him, directly retorted. Bah! Chu Song, put away your hypocritical look, it's disgusting. Yang Mu turned his head to look at Liu Wei, and then looked at the guy named Chu Song. He felt that there seemed to be some kind of grudge between these people. Yang Mu didn't think of investigating it, but Kun Sang, who was standing next to him, explained it directly in Yang Mu's ear. It turned out that this guy named Chu Song was the captain of the second team. He always liked Shenlan and always wanted Shenlan to be transferred to their team. But Shenlan was obviously unwilling, and the other party did not give up, but chose a roundabout tactic, hoping to change Shenlan's mind in this way. But with this arrogant attitude, Yang Mu didn't think that this was giving advice, but rather issuing orders. After saying this, the other party turned around and left. Shenlan didn't care about it. She returned to the team and began to confirm the progress of each mecha, as if the friction just now had not occurred. Boy, you are lucky today, it won't be so easy next time. Wei Gang left with some reluctance, and did not forget to speak harshly to Yang Mu at this moment, pointing two fingers at his eyes, and then at Yang Mu's eyes. Yang Mu ignored him, just picked up the paper map from the ground, lowered his head and started to mark it again. Chapter 240, Hunting and Killing. Mr. Kong, this way please. Gray smiled and took Kong's seat to a military floating command and combat platform, and then introduced Kong Si to the people around him. Kong Si also accepted the compliments of everyone, and then came to the center of the entire floating platform and spoke. "Director Jack, when will our exercise start?" Kong Si sat in the main seat with a swagger, looking at the busy staff around him, and asked. "It's ready, just waiting for your order. We will start now," Gray said with a smile, and Kong Si nodded. "Okay, then let them start." After saying this, Kong Si pretended to hold the telescope to look at the situation in the distance, and at this time Gray smiled bitterly and gestured to a soldier next to him, signaling him to start. The standing soldier was the deputy commander of the White Tiger Mecha Regiment, and his face was full of coldness at the moment. Obviously, he was also a little disgusted by the actions of the fat pig in front of him. But looking at Gray's bitter smile and the equipment promised to the Mecha Regiment by the other party, the soldier still spoke. "The exercise begins." With a command, the entire command and combat platform began to operate, and messages were sent to the Mecha team in the distance. "Deploy the chain sword, preheat all engines, turn on the airborne radar and thermal imaging scanners, and everyone pay attention to the surroundings," Shen Lan's voice sounded in the Mecha channel. Yang Mu narrowed his eyes, put on the holographic helmet, stretched his limbs into the combat slot, and began to operate the Mecha. The hunting ground in front of him, which was divided by a simple floating power grid, slowly appeared in front of him. The 13th team quickly entered it in a 1-2-2 formation. The scout Mecha operated by Kun Sang was in the front, Shen Lan and Richard were in the middle, and Yang Mu and Liu Wei were at the end. The command to start the action appeared in everyone's holographic helmet interface, and then Shen Lan issued the first order. Kun Sang goes to lure the enemy, Liu Wei, Yu and Yang Mu spread out to both sides to prevent the creatures from escaping. The order was transmitted to everyone's helmet, and several people also moved. The first to move was the halberd chopping Mecha operated by Kun Sang. The engine ports on the back of this slimmer Mecha were all opened, and then a blue flame was sprayed out the next moment. It took off directly with a huge prestige and flew not far away. Although Kun Sang's usual actions were very sloppy and decadent, Yang Mu nodded silently when he saw his actions without any drag. Yang Mu and Liu Wei were also driving the Mecha to both sides at this time, while Richard and Shen Lan were looking for the best killing location. The five-man team made a loose pocket trap and waited for the prey to come in. The other teams did the same thing at this time, and they all deployed their formations and prepared to start trapping creatures for battle. Yang Mu drove the Mecha away, carefully looked at the surrounding terrain, and then found a reverse slope and carefully looked at the situation in front of him. A moment later, a low roar came from the forest not far from Yang Mu, and then Yang Mu saw the trees in the sparse forest began to collapse. At the same time, two small targets on the radar were approaching Shen Lan. Kun Sang's voice also sounded in the channel at the right time. He had already lured a six-horned bull and was now heading towards the predetermined location, asking Shen Lan and others to be ready. As the name suggests, the six-horned bull has 6 legs and its attack power is not strong. It mainly has a thick skin. Ordinary thermal weapons cannot cause much damage, so it needs the cooperation of the Mecha team to kill it. At this time, Yang Mu also began to move towards Kun Sang in a straight line. A moment later, when Yang Mu reached the grassland terrain, he saw a Mecha rushing out 100 meters away. It was Kun Sang's Mecha. Behind Kun Sang, there was also a huge even-toed ungulate animal rushing out. Looking at the body size that was almost the same as a Mecha, Yang Mu also immediately cheered up. It seems that this is a third-level protozoan, which has been angered by Kun Sang at this moment and is rushing forward madly. In the distance, Shen Lan and Richard have already made preparations, waiting for the arrival of the other party. Seeing the target rushing straight ahead, Yang Mu and Liu Wei also quickly closed the encirclement and kept approaching from behind the rhino. Kun Sang, who was luring the rhino forward, suddenly stopped the Mecha when he was about to reach the place where Shen Lan and others were, and then lifted it up violently the next moment, and the whole Mecha quickly took off. The six-horned bull was obviously confused by the sudden disappearance of the target in front of it, but after seeing Shen Lan's 2 mechas not far away, the running action did not stop, and at this time Kun Sang, who was in the air, controlled the Mecha to rush down. The flashing chain sword rushed down and suddenly cut a knife on the six-horned bull's butt. The six-horned bull, who was even more angry at the pain, screamed, and then ran forward faster. At this time, Richard stood up, and the hands of the whole Mecha stood upright on the ground, and the armor on it automatically combined into a huge shield. The crazy six-horned bull ran away, and Richard seized the opportunity to contact. The shield tilted slightly to one side, and the six-horned bull rubbed it violently, and the whole body suddenly became unstable. At the same time, Shen Lan, who was standing behind Richard, attacked. The two chain swords of the mecha swung violently, and the height of the mecha was lowered. The two chain swords cut from the neck of the six-horned bull to the abdomen. Although the leather armor of the protozoan was thick, such a powerful attack also caused great damage to it. Large drops of blood dripped down, and the six-horned bull howled loudly. At this time, Yang Mu and Liu Wei's mechas had also rushed up. The two mechas attacked from the left and right, and the chain swords in their hands swung fiercely at the legs of this tall six-horned bull. The six-horned bull suddenly lost its support, and the bull suddenly knelt on the ground and slid forward. Shen Lan also followed up again at this time, swinging the chain sword in his hand fiercely, and slashed at the neck of the six-horned bull. However, the leather armor of the six-horned bull was obviously very thick, and Shen Lan was unable to directly end the life of the six-horned bull. The six-horned bull was still struggling violently in pain. At this time, Kunsang's mecha made the last move, and the relatively slender chain sword directly penetrated the cow's eyes. A moment later, amid the smoke and dust, the third-level creature was dead. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief, and Yang Mu also breathed a sigh of relief. Such a battle lasted only a few minutes, and it did not become very difficult because it was a third-level creature. With the cooperation of the team, it was completed in an instant. After completing all this, a black leopard rushed out not far away. It was another third-level creature that was released. Shen Lan also responded quickly, and everyone started again to face this new creature. After easily killing two third-level creatures in a row, Yang Mu also found that these creatures were not as powerful as he imagined. As long as his teamwork was in place, he could easily kill these creatures. These native creatures, even if they have huge bodies and powerful abilities, still have no power to fight back in front of humans who have mastered the power of science and technology. Yang Mu, force it over here, Kunsang, try to provoke it, Shen Lan's voice came from the channel. This was the third prey hunted by the team, a lizard-shaped creature, but it was covered with scales, a 6-meter-long body, and a very fast crawling speed. Although it had been seriously injured in several places, it was still very fast, which made the 13th team suddenly receive a different kind of frustration. Yang Mu manipulated the mecha to quickly cross the river, increasing the speed to keep up with the strange creature. The chain sword in his hand accurately left a wound on the opponent's abdomen. The lizard felt pain and quickly crawled towards the plane next to it. But in this way, the target position was a little off, and Yang Mu hurriedly followed, trying to force the opponent to one side. At this time, another green dot flashed on the radar, and was rapidly approaching the already seriously injured lizard. Who is that? Kunsang, it's not me, I haven't caught up yet. Shen Lan's exasperated voice and Kunsang's surprised voice rang out in the channel, and Yang Mu had already seen that the halberd-slashing mecha that suddenly appeared not far in front of him had already swung its blade. A stream of green blood splashed out, and the huge lizard suddenly fell to the ground, motionless. You are so useless. It took so long to kill a lizard, and in the end I had to do it, an arrogant voice rang out in the channel, and everyone was stunned for a moment, and then remembered the owner of this voice. Wei Gang. Chapter 241 Counterattack and Mutation. Everyone in the 13th team felt deep malice when Wei Gang suddenly appeared and mocked him. The other party actually appeared halfway and killed the prey that was about to be killed by them. And from the other party's words, Yang Mu could easily hear that the other party's intervention was completely intentional. Liu Wei and the team immediately got scared, yelled that he was looking for death, and was about to attack the other party. Shen Lan failed to stop the mad Liu Wei, but Yang Mu took a step forward and stopped the furious Liu Wei halfway. Yang Mu, what are you doing? Liu Wei said loudly and angrily, but Yang Mu said calmly. If you really chop him, you will fall into his trap. That's right, Liu Wei, don't be impulsive. At this time, Shen Lan also persuaded in the channel. Wei Gang was originally trying his best to target the 13th Mecha Squadron. Such an action could not be completely for the simple purpose of disgusting the 13th Mecha Squadron. He wanted to anger the 13th Mecha Squadron. As long as the other party made an attacking move and caused substantial damage, he would achieve his goal. Being attacked by his own comrades in the battlefield. Such a crime can be big or small, but for the current situation, such a crime is particularly serious. Everyone is in a tense hunting exercise. Such an exercise is originally done for the superiors to see, but in such an exercise, there is an internal conflict, and there is also a situation of hurting comrades, then the superiors will definitely blame it. And if he is defeated here, it will obviously be more powerful for Wei Gang's subsequent actions. And Wei Gang just had such an idea. Liu Wei, who also realized all this, immediately calmed down, but still said a little unconvinced. But, just let the other party go? That guy is really too hateful, Liu Wei said loudly. Shenlan was silent for a moment, and still persuaded everyone not to cause trouble, but at this time Yang Mu spoke. Although we cannot launch an attack on the other side, we can give them a taste of their own medicine. As soon as Yang Mu said this, several people present were stunned for a moment. Shenlan was the first to react, and seemed to want to refute, but in the end she remained silent and did not express her opinion. Liu Wei, on the other hand, excitedly urged them to act immediately. Since the other side had killed his team's prey, it did not mean that he could not do the same thing, so Yang Mu also reacted immediately. Seeing that Shenlan did not stop this proposal, Yang Mu called out, and the mechas of the 13th team moved towards the position of the 15th team on the radar. At this time, Wei Gang, who was standing aside and watching the movements of the mechas of the 13th team and sneering secretly, changed his face and rushed forward. Yang Mu and others walked through the hunting ground, like a sharp knife directly rushing into the location of the 15th team, and at this time the 15th team was surrounding and killing a hairless strange bird. The wings of this hairless bird were cut off, and at this moment it was surrounded by 4 mechas. But this strange bird has sharp claws and a long sharp beak, and it keeps attacking the surrounding mechas. The mechas next to it have not been able to find a chance to kill this strange bird. The members of the 15th team, who have been dealing with a hairless bird, did not even notice the rapid intrusion of Yang Mu and others in time. At this time, Wei Gang, who followed up, also obviously discovered the intention of Yang Mu and others, and quickly warned the team members. Only then did several members of the 15th team react. But at this time, Yang Mu and Liu Wei, who were in the front, had already joined the battle quickly. The 2 mechas rushed towards the strange bird. When Yang Mu reached the strange bird, he violently manipulated the mecha to make a sharp turn. The whole mecha made an incredible move in front of everyone, passing by the side of the hairless bird. At the same time, the chainsword of the mecha was revealed, and a deep wound immediately appeared on the neck of the strange bird. The hairless bird screamed in pain, and Liu Wei also saw the opportunity and cut off one of the opponent's claws directly. The people of the 15th team were stunned by the large number of Yang Mu and others, but the next second they understood the intention of Yang Mu and others, and hurriedly shouted to surround them, trying to stop Yang Mu's actions. At this moment, the strange bird was pecking at Yang Mu with its sharp beak wide open. Yang Mu's soaring mecha twisted his body in the air, facing the opponent's sharp beak, holding the chain sword in his hand horizontally, and then chopped it diagonally from the mouth of the hairless bird. Blood splattered, and the entire head of the hairless bird was split in half, and it fell to the ground without even a scream. Yang Mu's mecha landed steadily in front of the hairless bird, and the chain sword in his hand, which was still dripping with blood, was casually swung. At the same time, he opened the public channel of the mecha and said with a hint of sarcasm, "You are too useless. It takes so long to kill a little bird, and I have to do it in the end." Yang Mu's cold words were transmitted into the holographic helmets of each member of the 15th team. When Wei Gang heard this, his face turned green. Within 10 minutes after Wei Gang killed the lizard, Yang Mu returned this sentence to the other party in its entirety. This was Yang Mu's way of giving the other a taste of his own medicine. Yo-ho, Liu Wei and Kun Sang cheered loudly in the channel, and the faces of the people in the 15th team became somewhat gloomy. Shen Lan, who hurried over, also heard this sentence. Looking at the imposing Yang Mu in the field, a gleam of light flashed in her eyes. "Damn! You are looking for death?" Wei Gang was angry and roared as he was about to control the mecha. Yang Mu and others were not to be outdone and took up their positions. But at this moment, a loud roar suddenly came from everyone's helmet. The sound was deafening, and the surrounding mountains and forests were shaken a little, and the people in each mecha were also a little dazed. Everyone looked in the direction of the sound at the same time, but saw a terrifying scene. I saw a military green halberd chopping mecha moving in the forest, and in the mecha's hand, the thick chain sword was holding a small creature. Yang Mu looked over, and the holographic helmet showed that it was a small four-legged creature, with bright hair stained with red blood, and the blood was dripping on the ground. Behind it, rows of trees began to collapse, and the ground began to tremble. At the same time, two red dots appeared on everyone's radar, approaching quickly. The next moment, when Yang Mu looked further away, he saw two majestic lion-like creatures, with sharp fangs protruding, green eyes flashing with fierce light. And they were fiercely chasing the halberd-chopping mecha. At this time, the holographic helmet had already displayed the information of this species. Red-brown saber-toothed lion. Level 4 protozoan. Everyone. Tactical evasion, retreat. Retreat. Shen Lan and Wei Gang's voices sounded in the channels of the two teams at the same time, and everyone immediately controlled the mecha and retreated violently to the back. Chapter 242 Combined Attack Technique. Director Jack, what's that sound? Kwang Si, who was sitting in his seat and watching the battle scenes on the surrounding projection screen, suddenly stood up, looking at the hunting ground below, and asked Gray next to him, obviously shocked by the sudden loud voice. Those are two level 4 protozoa. We used bait to lure them into this hunting ground. Before Gray could find out the reason, the deputy head of the group standing next to him said this. Bait? What bait? The blood of their cubs, the deputy head of the group said coldly, as if he was stating a common fact. Gray next to him suddenly widened his eyes. He never thought that these level 4 creatures would come from this. He thought that the mecha group had already captured the level 4 creatures for the exercise, but it turned out that they were attracted from the dense forest on this spot. Kwang Si raised his eyebrows in surprise, and seemed to be very interested in this matter. Move the platform forward a little. I want to watch this show carefully, Kwang Si said so. Gray gave the deputy leader an inquiring look. After a moment, the entire platform slowly floated towards the entire hunting ground. This is the scout mecha of the second team. I was wondering where they were going to find the 4th level creatures. So that's it, the guy is holding the cub of that creature, in the mecha of the 13th team that quickly retreated, Kun Sang suddenly realized and said in the channel. Everyone immediately understood one thing. That is, such a 4th level creature was actually attracted by the mecha on the spot, and the method was to kill a cub of the opponent. The maternal instincts of the creature will stimulate their ferocity, and naturally they will chase after it. But the scout of the second team is also amazing. What kind of method did he use to kill the opponent's cub under the surveillance of the 4th level creature? While thinking about this question, Yang Mu also controlled the mecha to retreat. What appeared now was a level 4 creature, which was completely different from a level 3 creature. It was even more difficult for the mecha team to surround and kill such a creature. There was no successful case of a mecha team surrounding and killing a level 4 creature before. Because before this, the army directly used large-scale lethal weapons to eliminate such powerful creatures. Look over there, what are the second team going to do? At this time, Richard's voice came from the channel. Everyone turned their heads and saw that in the plain area, 4 halberd-cutting mechas were standing in a vertical row. Each mecha had made preparations for the battle. It seemed that the second team was going to fight the 2 level 4 creatures that appeared here. At the same time, in the sky not far away, a few meters above the ground, a disc slowly came over. Yang Mu recognized that it was a suspended command and combat platform. It seemed that the moment of the decisive battle had arrived, and those bigwigs had to witness this battle up close. Thinking of this, Yang Mu had already stopped the steps of his mecha, and the surrounding mechas also stopped one after another, obviously realizing what was going on now. The 13th and 15th teams stood not far away, staring at the situation in front of them. In the center of the hunting ground, on the plain, Chu Song, who was standing at the end of the entire row of mechas, showed a smug smile on his face. Looking at the level 4 creatures attracted by his teammates from a distance on the holographic helmet. Most of the level 4 creatures exist in the primeval forests here. It was a method that Chu Song came up with on a whim. He had led his team to kill many level 3 native creatures, and it was not a challenge for him at all. Since this exercise was performed for the big shots above, let his team have a gorgeous ending. Chu Song held the battle card slot with some excitement. Looking at the 2 level 4 creatures in the holographic helmet that had reached a sufficient attack distance, Chu Song decisively ordered to start the attack. Suddenly, the team neatly lined up in a vertical column moved. These mechas lined up in a long snake formation moved virus. The first one ran slowly, then the second one followed, then the third one, and the fourth one. When all the mechas started running, a blue light burst out from the back of the first mecha and shot towards the ground. The whole mecha immediately took off into the air, and then the second mecha also took off into the air, but the position was lower than the previous one. The third mecha repeated this action, and the fourth mecha was the lowest, almost flying close to the ground. At the same time, the mechas in the entire queue ejected chainswords. The neat and uniform movements were pleasing to the eye, but Yang Mu's heart moved. Mecha joint attack skills? Yang Mu didn't expect to see here the joint attack skills that originally only existed in the elite mecha team. Although it was the simplest ladder formation, this kind of mecha skill that required very tacit cooperation was not easy to practice. Yang Mu also perked up and watched the opponent's movements carefully. As for going up to help, the command from the command and combat platform in the holographic helmet to wait and see for a while, and to assist the second team in killing later, had clearly shown what Yang Mu needed to do now. In the distance, 4 mechas moving forward in the ladder brought up waves of dust and rushed towards the 2 saber-toothed lions. The scouts had already left the scene in advance, leaving the cub's body on the ground. The 2 lions rushed forward to sniff the lifeless cub, let out a mournful cry, and also noticed the mecha team rushing towards them from a distance. The 2 lions immediately stood side by side in front of the dead cub, roaring at the aggressive mecha. At this time, the mecha was not far from the 2 level 4 creatures. The first mecha took the lead and rolled half a circle to the left, holding the 2 chain swords diagonally in its hands. The second mecha rolled to the right and did the same action. The 2 mechas behind did not change their positions, and rushed towards the 2 level 4 creatures in a trumpet shape. Wow, what kind of fighting method is this? Liu Wei asked in the channel, obviously very interested in the tacit change of formation of the second team. But no one answered her question, because the confrontation over there was about to arrive and everyone was watching intently. The second mecha team with a fierce offensive collided with the 2 lions waving their sharp teeth and claws. 4 mechas passed by the place where the 2 lions stood quickly. Before everyone could figure out what was going on, they saw the 4 mechas passing through, leaving behind a swirling wave of dust. Yang Mu only saw the 4th mecha swinging a sword light, which flashed and seemed to draw an arc. This second team has something. The battle in front of them changed rapidly. At this time, the 15th team standing aside finally couldn't help it. Under Wei Gang's command, they all controlled the mechas and rushed to the battlefield not far away. Shen Lan also issued an order to attack, but Yang Mu stopped him and asked them to wait. When everyone was a little confused, 2 angry roars suddenly came from the gradually dispersing dust waves. Yang Mu and others immediately saw the situation. The 2 lions did not seem to be fatally attacked, only shallow wounds appeared on their skin. At this time, Yang Mu noticed that a lion seemed to be stepping on a metal plate under its paw. Looking closely, Yang Mu was surprised to find that it turned out to be a piece of armor on the chest of a mecha. The second team that had stopped in the distance suddenly encountered a problem. A mecha fell to the ground with a bang. The thick armor on the front of the mecha had disappeared, and the pilot in the exposed cockpit was already a bloody mess. At the same time, the mecha of the 15th team was very close to the 2 level 4 creatures. Chapter 243 Massacre. The attack of the second team failed. Seeing the scene that was completely different from what they imagined, this thought came to everyone's mind. Chu Song even couldn't believe this sudden failure. He couldn't understand why the 2 lions were safe and sound under such a powerful killing move. As the main attacker in the entire formation, the first 3 armors will help him to swing the attacks of the 2 creatures and create the best conditions for his attack. He did achieve this goal. When he swung his weapon, he clearly saw that the 2 lions were already wide open. His attack was also really cut on the 2 beasts. But why didn't he achieve any results? He still didn't know whether one of his team members was dead or alive. Yang Mu was also shocked by such a scene. He didn't expect that the 4th level protozoa on this planet would be so powerful. With such a fierce attack, the opponent didn't suffer any substantial damage. Moreover, in the scene of 2 against 4, they not only did not suffer any loss, but instead killed the second team. With such a fast passing speed, they could even tear a mecha apart completely. The level 4 creatures on this planet gave Yang Mu a completely different feeling. He had never seen such a powerful creature on any planet. Even on Hades during the college trial, the things he encountered could be easily killed with the cooperation of the team. But here, 4 mechas with excellent performance and skilled pilots were destroyed in an instant. Such creatures are almost as powerful as the Zerg generals. Yang Mu was still thinking about the situation of the creatures not far away, and at this time Yang Mu suddenly realized that the 15th team had already attacked. The 2 lions were intact, and the second team with outstanding strength was defeated. The 15th team, which was not as strong as the second team, went up at this moment. It was undoubtedly a sheep entering the tiger's mouth. No, it was a sheep entering the lion's mouth. Yang Mu immediately controlled the mecha to take a few steps forward, and saw that the 15th team heading into the distance did not seem to have any intention of stopping, and the other party was still moving forward quickly. Yang Mu opened the communication channel in a panic and shouted loudly. "Don't go up, Squad 15, don't attack, retreat, retreat immediately." Yang Mu's voice rang out in Wei Gang's helmet, but the other party didn't notice the situation of the second team at all. He just saw that the lion was injured, and Yang Mu said such words now, and Wei Gang naturally knew that he was trying to stop him from grabbing the credit. But how could he give it up? This was an opportunity to show off at his fingertips. Wei Gang completely abandoned Yang Mu's advice, and at this moment forgot the horror of the fourth-level creatures, and only remembered what kind of credit he would have later. So he shouted loudly in the mecha channel, and the mechas of all the team members accelerated again and rushed towards the lion not far away. Seeing that Wei Gang's team did not stop, Yang Mu was surprised and frowned. "That stupid pig. Can't you see the current situation?" Yang Mu stepped forward again and shouted loudly in the channel, and at this time the 5 mechas and the 2 huge lions had already noticed Wei Gang's team. The 2 lions roared loudly, and pulled away the steel plate under their feet. They lowered their bodies, opened their claws, and looked at the 5 mechas rushing towards them with a terrifying light in their eyes. The next moment, the 2 lions seemed to exchange glances, and then roared loudly, leaped up, and pounced directly at the 5 mechas. The lion body, about 5 meters high and nearly 10 meters long, suddenly leaped up and turned into a long shadow. Wei Gang's mecha first clashed with the lion. Wei Gang raised the chain sword in his hand, found an opportunity, and chopped at the opponent's head. But at this moment, the lion raised its head slightly, and its bloody mouth full of fangs actually bit the edge of the chain sword. At the same time, its 2 front feet with sharp claws were also placed on the chain sword, and it shook its head violently. Wei Gang was affected by the opponent's impact, and the chain sword in the left hand of the mecha could not make an effective attack. He wanted to throw the lion out. The lion was shaken by the great force from Wei Gang's mecha and slowly swung to one side. But a horrifying scene appeared. The lion actually bit the entire alloy chain sword directly into pieces at the moment it was about to be shaken out. The fragments of the combined chain sword immediately fell to the ground, and the lion took advantage of the momentum and landed directly on another mecha that came. On the other side, another lion had successfully pounced on a halberd mecha, and its 2 thick claws slapped on the body of the mecha, and at the same time opened its mouth and bit hard on the front chest armor of the mecha. Even if everyone stood far away, they could still feel the sound of metal deformation. The lion's huge head shook, and soon the front chest armor was torn off. At the same time, the claws reached in, and Yang Mu had already heard the driver's screams in the channel. This was a massacre, a one-sided massacre of human mechas by 2 level 4 creatures. Yang Mu, who was standing far away and watching all this, could no longer bear it. Seeing them being slaughtered like this, Yang Mu could no longer sit idly by. 2 blue flames burst out from behind Yang Mu's mecha, and the halberd chopping mecha driven by Yang Mu had already headed for that place. Yang Mu, the roar of Shenlan and others came from the channel, but Yang Mu had already gone out. A moment later, all the mechas in the field rushed towards the 2 lions. When Wei Gang was surprised to find that his weapon was bitten off by the creature in front of him, he also heard the screams of his companions from the headphones. Just a turn, Wei Gang saw several mechas in front of him, 2 of which were lying on the ground and dismembered. The mecha next to him was using the sword in his hand to chop at a lion that was biting his comrade's mecha, but the next moment a bloody mouth appeared from the back of the mecha, biting hard on the arm of the mecha and completely biting it off. At that moment, screams and tragic scenes flashed in Wei Gang's mind, and at this time the lion turned its head and pounced on him. Wei Gang almost reflexively raised his hand and wanted to fight with his weapon, but he saw the entire broken chain sword in the right hand of the mecha, and his eyes fell into deep panic. The lion opened its bloody mouth again, and Wei Gang hurriedly raised the weapon in his left hand, but another lion came out of nowhere and had already bitten his left arm. The huge tearing force made Wei Gang unable to stand. And at this time the lion's sharp teeth and claws were close to him. Wei Gang almost fell into despair. The scene in front of him made Wei Gang understand at this moment that he was like a piece of paper in front of such a creature and was torn into pieces in an instant. Wei Gang even closed his eyes, feeling deeply guilty for blindly rushing forward to bury his teammates, and at the same time prepared to accept the disaster that was about to befall him. At this moment, the roar of the mecha engine suddenly appeared. Wei Gang opened his eyes and saw the lion in front of him being hit hard by the mecha that suddenly appeared from the side, and the leaping lion fell to the side. A halberd-slashing mecha suddenly stood in front of him. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 244 Mutation. Yang Mu rushed over almost when the reddish-brown lion was about to touch the mecha of the 15th team in front of him, and pushed it away with the heavy shoulder armor of the mecha. However, the power of the lion in front of him also surprised Yang Mu. The momentum fed back by the mecha made Yang Mu feel a little overwhelmed. Although he pushed the opponent away, his mecha also staggered and stopped on the ground. At this time, other people were still rushing over. There were already 4 mechas lying on the field in front of them. The cockpit of each mecha had been deformed, and the people inside were in danger. Leave first, Wei Gang, who had recovered from the crisis, heard Yang Mu's words and looked up at the mecha in front of him. He was surprised that it was the mecha of the 13th team that saved him. Although he was very surprised, Wei Gang still obeyed the order and quickly retreated. As for the 2 lions in front of him, the lion that was pushed away by Yang Mu immediately turned around and looked at Yang Mu's mecha with its fangs wide open. The other lion shook the mecha arm that was torn off in its mouth a few times, and threw it aside fiercely, also looking at Yang Mu in front of him. Being stared at fiercely by the 2 lions, Yang Mu suddenly felt a sense of crisis in his heart, and the hair on his back stood up slightly, and his whole heart was lifted up. Yang Mu silently took a stance, and all the engines behind him were turned on, slowly turning, ready to erupt at any time. The 2 lions seemed to be very angry about the sudden appearance of Yang Mu's mecha in front of them. After a few low roars, the 2 lions rushed towards Yang Mu's mecha at the same time. The swift figure quickly approached Yang Mu, and Yang Mu also reacted quickly. The main engine and auxiliary engine behind the whole mecha were all started, and the whole mecha suddenly took off, but at this time, one lion made a completely different move. The lion actually stepped back and jumped up. Seeing the fangs approaching him, Yang Mu was horrified. He quickly turned the chain sword in his hand and pointed the tip of the sword at the opponent. Seeing that this huge lion was about to pounce on his mecha, Yang Mu was even ready to fight with the opponent on the ground. But at this time, a halberd-cutting mecha fell from the sky, and the huge mecha stepped directly on the lion's head and kicked the opponent down. Yang Mu manipulated the mecha to turn around and stabilized after a turn. The mecha also stabilized beside Yang Mu, and the 2 lions on the ground raised their heads and roared loudly. Looking at the 2 lions as if they were facing a great enemy, Yang Mu inadvertently noticed the chain sword of the mecha when he was puzzled. There were mottled bloodstains on the chain sword in the right hand of the mecha, and Yang Mu suddenly realized it. This mecha was the mecha that lured them out before, and it was the scout mecha of the 2nd team. At this moment, the 2 lions roared again, as if they had discovered that this mecha was the culprit who had abused and killed their children. At the same time, the other mechas of the 13th and 2nd teams also arrived. All the mechas surrounded the 2 creatures from all sides, ready to kill them. The command and combat platform in the distance also slowly moved towards this side. The disc shape and the height of less than 10 meters looked a bit depressing. But Yang Mu couldn't care about these things now. The most urgent thing was the 2 level 4 creatures in front of him. Their existence would endanger the lives of everyone here. They couldn't cause more casualties. We had to let everyone retreat safely first. Such creatures can only be eliminated by the station army with heavy firepower. Yang Mu immediately made a plan in his mind and said loudly in the public channel. Everyone retreat, contact the army to mobilize firepower, kill these 2 beasts. A strange voice sounded at the same time, which surprised everyone. Yang Mu was also confused by this sudden situation. This sentence was said by Chu Song. At this moment, his face was fierce, and he wanted to kill the 2 lions in front of him on the spot. Listen to me, we are not the opponent of these 2 creatures. It is important for everyone to survive. The higher-ups must have notified reinforcements to come. Yang Mu was still arguing, hoping to persuade everyone to save their strength. But at this time, Chu Song's voice sounded again in the public channel, and he shouted loudly, "Bullshit! Then our team members died in vain. Today, these two beasts must die in our hands." Members of the second team, revenge for Kayangzi, although Chu Song said so righteously, the main reason for the current situation made Chu Song very embarrassed. He promised in front of the deputy head that he would successfully kill the fourth-level creatures. And if he fled now, wouldn't it be obvious to tell others that he was incompetent? Even if this was a dead end, Chu Song still decided to go for it. This sentence seemed to ignite the entire battle situation immediately. The 4 mechas of the second team in the field moved at the same time and launched an attack on the 2 lions. At this time, even if Yang Mu and others wanted to get away, the mecha in front of them had already joined the battle, and the lion was next to them, so this battle was inevitable. Shen Lan gave an order, and several mechas of the 13th team also came up immediately. Although Yang Mu wanted everyone to change their strategy, his words were completely useless now. Seeing that everyone was fighting with the 2 lions, he gritted his teeth and rushed up with a mecha. The combat power of the second team was indeed stronger. At least for now, the opponent could withstand some attacks from the lions. Although scars gradually appeared on the mecha, it was still much better than the 15th team's crush posture. But this was not a performance, this was a game of life and death. A lion jumped fiercely onto the scout mecha of the second team, and then bit off the head of the mecha with its bloody mouth. At the same time, the place where the claws were caught on the entire mecha began to deform, and the sound of metal deformation gradually came. Yang Mu stepped forward quickly, and Kun Sang attacked from both sides, leaving a wound on the back of the lion with the chain sword in his hand. But what surprised Yang Mu was that these wounds did not seem to be deep. When he controlled the chain sword to chop up, he felt like he was chopping on a tough piece of felt. After feeling the sluggish and unsmooth feeling, the chain sword in his hand just slid away. This level 4 creature is indeed different. At this time, the lion had let go of the scout mecha and turned its target to the mecha of Shenlan that was approaching next to it. "Captain! Pay attention," Kun Sang shouted in the channel, and at this time Richard appeared at the right time, blocking the front with his shield in his hand, and the lion hit it hard. A big dent suddenly appeared on Richard's shield, and the whole mecha also retreated violently, interfering with Shenlan's mecha that wanted to launch an attack. The lion just shook its head, as if nothing happened. Everyone was stunned by the powerful fighting force, and at this time there was movement from the second team. Chu Song's excited voice rang out in the channel. It turned out that he had just seized the opportunity to leave a wound on the inner thigh of another lion, but the lion took advantage of the situation to pounce on a mecha. At this moment, the 2 sides were in a fierce battle. Although there were 9 mechas in the field, and the 2 mecha teams were from the outstanding White Tiger Mecha Regiment, they were obviously still suppressed by the 2 lions. The field was too small, and many mechas could not form an effective attack formation. Yang Mu wanted to use his abilities, but was blocked by layers. At this time, the lion in front of Yang Mu suddenly changed its action. It turned its body and looked to the other side. Yang Mu looked up and followed the lion's gaze to see Liu Wei's mecha. But before Yang Mu could issue a warning, the lion suddenly pounced and rushed towards Liu Wei. Yang Mu and the surrounding mechas quickly surrounded them, hoping to block the opponent. But the slender lion had already reached Liu Wei's position. Liu Wei, who was hastily preparing to fight, had not yet positioned himself before the lion's attack arrived. Its thick limb slammed fiercely into Liu Wei's chest armor, causing Liu Wei's mecha to fly backwards. The lion, however, used the force to leap to the side. With this leap, the height actually exceeded the height of the Zhanji mecha. Yang Mu looked over and was horrified to discover another horrifying thing. The lion's target was not Liu Wei, but the floating command and combat platform that had already approached. It regarded this large disc floating in the air as its biggest threat. The previous ones were Chapter 241, Chapter 242, and Chapter 243. I got confused and typed it into Chapter 300. Chapter 245, Insufficient Success. The huge and slender lion body suddenly leaped, and its 2 front paws instantly touched the edge of the suspended command and combat platform, and a muffled sound was heard. "Sir, the platform is under attack," the staff working in the disc immediately said. "Turn the image over." The deputy head of the group who had been standing next to him spoke at this time, and Kong Si also looked over at this time. There was a clattering sound at the edge, and the image was also turned over at this time. A picture was immediately displayed on the screen in front of everyone. A huge lion was struggling to swing its body upwards, and its two hind paws were trying hard to reach the edge of the suspended platform, hoping to climb up. When Kong Si and others saw this thing, they immediately realized that it was the fourth-level creature that was originally being hunted, and at this moment, the other party actually jumped to the edge of the suspended platform nearly 10 meters above the ground. The lion's face stained with blood made its already fierce face even more ferocious. At this moment, the other party's movements even made the entire edge of the platform squeak. Quick, quick, get it away! Kong Si, who was originally sitting in his seat, collapsed to the ground with fear on his face. His two short and sturdy legs kept kicking back, trying to get away from the place where the lion climbed up. Just now, Kong Si wanted to observe how these level 4 creatures would be killed at close range, so he let the entire floating platform move forward and came to the sky above the battlefield. At that time, Kong Si also saw the mechas that had been bitten and shattered on the ground. Seeing such a bloody scene, the deputy head of the mech regiment immediately took action and issued an order to find reinforcements. At this time, Kong Si was also a little dazed by such a scene, and his heart was gradually filled with shock and fear. But before he had time to let the platform leave here, he heard a collision sound, and then followed such a picture. Kong Si retreated with anxiety and fear on his face. Gray hurried over to support him, but the deputy head immediately stepped forward, stood in the main seat, and issued orders to the surrounding operators. Leave here immediately, let the team below drive this thing down immediately, and the guard team merges again. Don't worry, the platform has an energy shield, that thing can't get in. The order was issued, and the staff on the platform also began to perform various operations, but at this time, something strange happened, and a loud lion roar sounded in everyone's ears. The deafening sound made almost everyone cover their ears immediately, and at this time, the protective shield covered by blue light on the edge of the floating platform suddenly flashed. It turned out that the lion's hind paws grabbed something fiercely, causing the entire protective shield to seem to have problems. The horrifying scene made everyone suddenly shudder, and Kong Si's veins bulged at this moment, which was caused by excessive tension. Mad, what are you doing? Hurry up and increase the altitude. Kong Si, who was rolling on the side, suddenly shouted loudly at this time, and at the same time, his fat body suddenly stood up, and then flexibly pounced on the control console next to him. Kong Si madly pulled the driver's hand away, then glanced at the control console and put his hand on the projection control screen. Fingerprint recognition error. Fingerprint recognition error, but at this time, the screen lit up red. It was a warning from the intelligent control screen. The control screen security settings use the driver's fingerprint and biological heartbeat band. If one of them is missing, it will be automatically locked and cannot be driven by people without permission. Kong Si was stunned when he saw all this, but he immediately turned his head and saw the driver next to him. In the panicked eyes of the other party, Kong Si, with tears streaming down his face, reached out and grabbed the other party's hand, and then pressed it hard on the projection screen. The operation screen recognized the fingerprint. Kong Si grabbed the other party's hand and pushed hard. The entire suspended platform suddenly tilted to the side, and the people sitting inside were immediately thrown to the ground. Asshole! What are you doing? The deputy captain who struggled to grab the chair looked at Kong Si, who was rolling out with his eyes wide open, and was extremely angry at the other party's crazy action just now. And worse things are still to come. When Kong Si operated randomly, the entire platform suddenly tilted up, and at this time the protective cover also had problems, and a black shadow appeared in front of everyone. The driver tried his best to restore the entire platform to normal, but Kong Si suddenly screamed like a pig being slaughtered in the disc-shaped platform. Gray, who was bleeding from the collision, finally shook his head to calm down, and heard Kong Si's voice beside him. He looked up and his face froze. In the center of the entire platform, a huge figure appeared in front of him, with green eyes looking over here. Just as Kong Si was operating, the side where the lion landed was turned up, and the lion was thrown up like this, and at the same time, the protective cover of the entire platform suddenly failed, and the whole body of the saber-toothed lion fell in. Under Kong Si's operation, everyone was put into a more dangerous situation by mistake. Help! Although Kong Si was fat, he was very flexible at this moment. He climbed to both sides of the platform and wanted to escape immediately, but when he stood up, he hit the protective cover of the platform and had no way to jump down. Kong Si immediately shouted loudly, which just attracted the lion. The lion, which exuded a murderous aura, turned its huge head and looked in the direction of Kong Si, while snorting a huge breath, and the whole space became very smelly. Guangxi hit the protective shield more fiercely, and roared loudly to order the driver to open the protective shield. The deputy head of the group also saw this situation at this time, and immediately ordered the platform to descend urgently, close the protective shield, and everyone jumped out of here, and at the same time pulled out the electromagnetic pistol from his waist. The lion ignored the situation here, rushed over directly, and bit the fat man in his mouth, and blood splashed all over the platform. A few drops of blood splashed on Gray's face, who was standing not far away, and he couldn't help shuddering. A living person was eaten in front of him like this? The first thought in Gray's mind was that it was over, and his grand plan was over. Seeing all this, Gray was deeply shocked, trembling in his heart, and wanted to escape, but his legs couldn't move. After the lion ate Guangxi, it turned its head and looked at Gray. Gray opened his mouth wide to ask for help, but found that he had lost his voice due to fear. At this time, a gunshot suddenly sounded next to him. It was the deputy commander who fired a gun. But the lion became even more crazy in pain and opened its mouth wide towards Gray. The sharp fangs appeared in front of Gray, but with a loud bang, two huge metal objects fell on his left and right sides. The next moment, Gray saw two huge metal arms fiercely grasping the two huge fangs of the saber-toothed lion, stopping the opponent's attack. Chapter 246 Fierce Battle. An 8-meter-high mecha appeared on this floating platform with an area of less than 50 square meters. The entire platform was shaken by the impact of the mecha falling down, and it was still falling rapidly at this moment. Yang Mu only felt a huge force in his hands. His mecha seemed unable to resist. Gritting his teeth, Yang Mu opened all the engines behind him to the maximum. At the same time, the auxiliary engines on both hands were overloaded. The original blue flames had turned red at this moment. The saber-toothed lion in front of him really brought a more difficult situation to Yang Mu and others. In this already difficult situation, the floating platform that suddenly floated over made the situation more complicated. When Yang Mu saw this guy trying to climb onto the floating platform, Yang Mu decisively started the engine, greeted everyone, and rushed towards the lion. He must not let the other party hurt the people on the platform. The people on it were not wearing sturdy and heavy mechas like himself, and the people on it could not have the strength to fight such a lion. Although there was a protective shield, who knew if something unexpected would happen? So at that moment, Yang Mu had already made up his mind, that is, to get the lion down from above and immediately relieve the crisis of the platform. He did what he said, and Yang Mu quickly controlled the mecha to rush up, but at that moment, the entire platform suddenly showed a different situation. The entire platform didn't know what was going on, and it suddenly shook violently, and at that moment, the lion was shaken up, watching the other party break free, and then fell steadily into the platform. The protective shield that was originally turned on disappeared at that moment, and the lion fell into the wide platform. It would be another massacre. Without any hesitation, several mechas of the 13th team rushed over quickly. Yang Mu was the first to arrive, and he immediately saw the situation inside. The lion had launched an attack and was about to attack a person inside. Although it was difficult for his huge fuselage to fall into this very narrow space, seeing that the people inside were facing danger, Yang Mu didn't care so much. He found a gap and controlled the mecha to fall into it. At that time, the fangs of the lion also appeared in front of him. Yang Mu roared, and the engine behind him had already emitted a wisp of smoke. At this time, the entire command and combat platform fell to the ground with a bang. There was a strong vibration under the feet of everyone. The saber-toothed lion did not stand firmly, so Yang Mu grabbed the opponent's fangs and pushed the whole lion out. The platform fell to the ground, splashing huge dust. At this time, the mecha of the 13th team also rushed over, and saw a huge figure rushing out of the dust. The halberd mecha that burst out pushed out a huge creature. Yang Mu actually pushed the beast out directly. Everyone was deeply shocked by the horrifying scene in front of them, and the next moment, the lion was thrown out by Yang Mu. But the lion suddenly fell to the ground, and then turned flexibly and stood lightly on the ground. The saber-toothed lion was not fatally injured, only some flesh wounds, so Yang Mu's attack was not a threat to it. But it aroused its ferocity to a greater extent. The saber-toothed lion crouched low, with its fangs exposed, roaring at Yang Mu. Yang Mu also quickly stabilized his body, and then immediately ejected several chain swords in his left and right hands again. Although this kind of chainsword with built-in ejection combination can save space and reduce the difficulty of forging whole materials, Yang Mu did not like the ejection after putting it away. Yang Mu just pulled some distance from the lion, and the lion immediately rushed up. Yang Mu, be careful. Shen Lan, who was standing not far away, was arranging Richard and Kun Sang to rescue people, and saw the situation on Yang Mu's side. At this time, he also rushed over to help Yang Mu with a mecha. Yang Mu also immediately made a counterattack, holding the chainsword diagonally and rushing towards the beast. The two sides immediately clashed, the lion's sharp claws slapped the chainsword fiercely, splashing sparks, and Yang Mu also seized this opportunity and quickly swung a knife at the opponent's belly. In the first confrontation, Yang Mu was better. The lion pushed back 2 steps in fear and roared at Yang Mu more ferociously. Shen Lan also came to Yang Mu at this time, and the two looked at the lion next to them together. Fight and retreat, we are not opponents, Shen Lan said this in the channel, and Yang Mu also responded. In the previous series of confrontations, Yang Mu knew that it was difficult to defeat this creature in front of him alone. At this moment, what he had to do more was to lead it away and not let it endanger the lives of the people on the platform that fell. The two people attacked the lion at the same time, and the saber-toothed lion was not to be outdone, and also rushed towards the two. Yang Mu and Shen Lan, one on the left and one on the right, raised the chainsword in their hands at the same time, and were about to launch a fatal attack on each other. But at this time, a glimmer flashed in the eyes of the lion, and then it made an incredible move in front of Yang Mu and Shen Lan. It kicked the ground with its front paws, and then suddenly twisted its body and pounced on Shen Lan's mecha. At the same time, a huge tail appeared in Yang Mu's field of vision. This guy. Yang Mu hurriedly raised the chainsword in his hand to block, but the unusually thick tail hit Yang Mu fiercely. The force of the blow came, and Yang Mu's mecha, which was moving forward, was hit and flew out immediately. The mecha rolled on the ground for several rounds, and it was in a mess. But at the same time, the voices of other team members sounded in the channel. Kun Sang shouted in the channel that the captain should be careful. Yang Mu struggled to look over, but he saw the lion with its bloody mouth wide open, waving its sharp claws towards Shen Lan. It was the same pounce and bite action again, but Shen Lan's mecha was rushing forward, and it was difficult to defend against the attack from the side. So in the eyes of everyone, Shen Lan's mecha was immediately knocked down, and the lion opened its mouth wide and bit the front chest armor of Shen Lan's mecha. Yang Mu quickly stood up. At this time, Kun Sang and Richard were still a short distance away, and Liu Wei's mecha, which was destroyed at the farthest point, could only watch this scene. Yang Mu ignited all the engines on one side of the mecha almost instantly, and then the rolling posture of the mecha stopped suddenly, and the entire mecha was ejected. The two chainswords in Yang Mu's hands crossed and rushed towards the lion quickly. The saber-toothed lion used its claws to break the chainsword in the hand of Shen Lan's mecha, and its sharp teeth deeply penetrated the front chest armor of the mecha. The armor made of neat bevels was deforming at an incredible speed. Yang Mu had already arrived at the scene at this moment, and the chainsword in his hand chopped the lion's head cleanly and fiercely. A buzzing sound sounded, and Yang Mu's mecha retreated a few steps. The lion also stopped attacking, shook its head, and turned to look at Yang Mu again. Chapter 247: A Desperate Struggle. The saber-toothed lion crouched down and looked at Yang Mu again, and Yang Mu immediately perked up and changed the action of the mecha. The saber-toothed lion in front of him was now attracted by him, so for Shen Lan, she was safe now. Without time to check Shen Lan's condition, Yang Mu quickly manipulated the mecha to retreat a few steps backwards quickly, so that his mecha and the lion were kept at a sufficient distance. But at this time, the saber-toothed lion also immediately launched an attack. It pounced on Yang Mu fiercely, and the fangs in its mouth were full of ferocity, as if it was very angry at the guy in front of it who had made him lose several times. Yang Mu ran back with a big stride, and the saber-toothed lion also roared and rushed over quickly. Yang Mu turned around, and the chainsword in his hand drew a beautiful arc backwards. The lion just hit the blade, but the opponent was so agile that he used his fangs to collide with the chainsword. The chainsword in Yang Mu's hand shook violently a few times, and a part of the chainsword in his hand was actually deformed. This lion is really too strong. Yang Mu couldn't figure out why there were such powerful creatures here. How much effort would it take for humans to completely transform such a planet? Yang Mu's mecha was running at a speed that was completely inferior to the saber-toothed lion that was chasing him at full speed. Yang Mu had to stop quickly, then quickly turned around and swung the chain sword again to face the opponent. The lion did not stop, ignoring Yang Mu's attack, and still pounced on Yang Mu fiercely. The huge fangs were immediately exposed. Yang Mu manipulated the mecha to dodge to the side, but one side of his mecha was still caught by the opponent's claws. The armor on the left upper arm of the entire mecha left several deep scratches, and the protected parts could be seen. Yang Mu didn't have time to worry about these, but quickly swung the chain sword in his hand and chopped the opponent's waist with a knife, but the blade came into contact with the lion's skin, and the feeling of blockage came again. Yang Mu's attack was empty again, only causing some obstruction to the opponent. But before Yang Mu could reply, the thing rushed towards Yang Mu again, with an even more fierce look in its eyes, and it actually knocked Yang Mu's mecha down. Yang Mu, the other people's exclamations came from the helmet, but Yang Mu calmly bent the two mechanical legs of the mecha quickly, and then kicked the opponent's belly fiercely. Finally, he was a little faster than the opponent's claws, kicked the opponent away, and then quickly stood up. Kun Sang and Richard also rushed over at this time. They rushed directly towards the lion. Before Yang Mu's warning sounded out, the lion had already launched another attack. Richard's arm combination shield, which had been deformed by the impact, was directly shattered by the impact of the saber-toothed lion. At this time, Kun Sang's attack did not work. Another simple lion tail whip, Kun Sang's entire mecha flew out. Yang Mu's mecha immediately seized this opportunity, and the chain sword in his hand swung out at the same time. But this time Yang Mu found the right direction and aimed the tip of the sword directly at the wound on the lion in front of him. Although Chu Song's previous attack failed to kill the opponent, under that fierce combined attack, Chu Song still left two clear scars on the lion's abdomen. Both scars cut through the skin and flesh of the saber-toothed lion, and the bright red blood and muscles were clearly visible. The saber-toothed lion had just pushed Richard's mecha away, and also noticed the sound coming from behind. Turning his head, he saw Yang Mu's actions. Yang Mu seized this opportunity, holding the chain sword in his right hand and the chain sword in his left hand horizontally, suddenly stepped forward, blocked the opponent's front paws that had already jumped up with his left arm, and stabbed forward with the chain sword in his right hand at an angle. There was a sense of resistance when entering the flesh, but when Yang Mu's mecha auxiliary engine started with greater power, the tip of the entire sword immediately pierced in violently, and blood gushed out immediately. A painful roar suddenly came out from the mouth of the lion in front of him. At the same time, the lion's body kept twisting, but the half-standing body and the front paw blocked by the left hand of the mecha made it unable to make a very effective attack. Yang Mu waved the chain sword in his hand fiercely with a ferocious face. The chain sword brought out blood and bits of meat, making the whole lion wail. This bloody and sudden scene made everyone excited. Seeing Yang Mu fiercely fighting against this fourth-level protozoan alone, and even taking the advantage, everyone looked at it almost in disbelief. The mecha deputy leader and Gray and others who had just escaped from the crash platform also saw this scene, and they all opened their mouths wide. Less than 100 meters away from them, a shocking scene was taking place. Two huge bodies with a height of 7 or 8 meters were pushing hard, and the metal-textured mecha showed a powerful force at this moment, pushing the fierce creature forward. The sharp sword was extremely sharp at this moment, but the simple and rough action gave people the most profound shock. This is the warrior in my mecha regiment. This is the real mecha warrior. This is the first word that popped out of the deputy mecha commander's mind, and the next moment, a sudden change occurred. The lion was restrained by Yang Mu like this, and it was immediately stuck in a stalemate. The constant tingling sensation in its abdomen made it extremely angry. In order to get rid of this situation, it didn't know where the lion got the strength from, and it actually directly knocked down Yang Mu's halberd mecha. With such a sudden fall, Yang Mu's mecha suddenly lost its balance, and the chain sword in his right hand could no longer attack quickly. What's more terrifying is that at this moment, the lion actually opened its mouth and bit the left arm of Yang Mu's mecha. A fierce light flashed in the lion's eyes, and the next moment, the opponent shook his head suddenly, and the whole body rolled with the mecha, and actually pulled Yang Mu's mecha aside, and the chain sword inserted in its abdomen also fell out in this action. Yang Mu knew that his top priority now was to stand up the mecha again, otherwise his ability would be greatly weakened. Yang Mu struggled to control the mech to stand up, and at this time the lion was still biting Yang Mu's mech's left arm and refused to let go. Yang Mu's mech stood up, and the other party used its strength to tear it violently. An alarm suddenly sounded in Yang Mu's holographic helmet. Yang Mu looked and saw that it was the damage alarm of the left arm, but before Yang Mu turned his head, a burst of sparks suddenly burst out in the left field of vision in the holographic helmet. It was the sparks that burst out when the left arm of the entire mech was torn off by the saber-toothed lion. Yang Mu was extremely horrified, but the lion immediately spit out the mech parts in its mouth, and rushed towards Yang Mu again with its bloody mouth wide open, as if to fight Yang Mu to death. Kunsang and Richard, who stood up again, immediately saw the lion jumping onto Yang Mu's mech at lightning speed, and then opened its big mouth and bit the head of the halberd mech fiercely. Warning! Warning! Important parts are seriously damaged. Scarlet fonts appeared in Yang Mu's holographic helmet, and the next second, the alarm popped up again. The head of the mecha was detached, the dynamic capture system failed, the auxiliary aiming system failed, and the top of the holographic field of view was damaged. The important parts of the mecha are, Yang Mu will lose greater control of the mecha due to the lack of many auxiliary functions. At this moment, Yang Mu is in danger. Kunsang and Richard rushed over at this time, and the two mechas launched an attack at the same time. Kunsang also learned from Yang Mu's appearance, and cleverly found the wound on the saber-toothed lion that had been smashed by Yang Mu, and stabbed it hard. The saber-toothed lion felt pain and finally let go of Yang Mu's mecha. Yang Mu also won a chance to breathe, and then he manipulated the mecha to retreat quickly. After stumbling for several steps, the whole mecha finally regained its balance. But Richard and Kunsang beside him looked very embarrassed at the moment. The two mechas were not able to reach the driving and fighting level of Yang Mu. In just one round, the two mechas were damaged again by the saber-toothed lion. Richard, who is mainly responsible for defense, could not eject the chainsword because of the heavy blow. Although Kunsang was sensitive, he was immediately damaged as soon as he clashed with the opponent. The whole mecha was now sparking. Back off, don't fight. Just lead it away, Yang Mu shouted loudly in the channel, but found that the communication was blocked. Just now, the saber-toothed lion attacked the mecha's head, and the frequency band transmitter used for communication was also destroyed. Yang Mu was anxious and wanted to find a way to save the situation. He saw Chu Song's mecha team struggling to support in the distance, Shanlan and Liu Wei's mechas that could no longer fight, and Richard and Kunsang who were struggling to face the lion. But he was already in a semi-disabled state. Could he still withstand the attack of the lion? But the critical situation at the scene did not allow Yang Mu to think too much. When Richard and Kunsang were swung away by the lion again, the other party suddenly pounced and knocked Kunsang's mecha to the ground, and was ready to repeat the same trick and launch a fatal attack on Kunsang. Yang Mu drove the broken mecha forward again without hesitation, but at this moment his left arm was completely lost, and the right hand of the mecha was barely raised. Yang Mu rushed over quickly and launched an attack. It was also the wound on the lion's abdomen. Yang Mu inserted the chainsword violently. The saber-toothed lion that was frantically biting Kunsang's mecha suddenly roared loudly, and at this time the momentum of Yang Mu's mecha directly took this guy away. And the chainsword in his hand also pierced into it fiercely. Yang Mu's mecha was pressing the other party under the mecha. Yang Mu's right hand stirred violently, and the chainsword cut a bigger wound in the lion's stomach, and at the same time made the other party even more crazy. The fierce struggle of the lion almost made Yang Mu's mecha unable to suppress it, but at this moment Yang Mu's face was full of ferocity. Without any hesitation, he just madly injected all the remaining mecha energy into all the engines behind the mecha, and at the same time stirred the chainsword in his hand fiercely. The lion's limbs scratched fiercely in front of the mecha, and deep scars appeared one after another. Metal parts kept falling from the mecha, but the saber-toothed lion had no way to push Yang Mu's mecha away. Although Yang Mu suppressed the fierce lion in front of him, the huge force made the whole mecha show an alarm, and the voices of civilizations rang out everywhere. The lion in front of him was still full of energy, and Yang Mu's brain was turning rapidly. Although his attack at this moment stirred the internal organs of the lion, it would inevitably die in the future, but what Yang Mu needed was to get rid of the opponent immediately. If the opponent struggled out, he would not have any ability to attack again, and he could not even defend himself. Looking at the close-up image in the holographic helmet, Yang Mu quickly thought of a solution. He tightened the arm of the mecha holding the chainsword again, then suddenly raised it and stabbed it hard. Yang Mu manipulated the chainsword to turn a direction in the lion's body, so that the tip of the entire chainsword was aimed at the heart of the lion. Although he didn't know whether the biological structure diagram of these creatures was similar to what he knew, this was the only way Yang Mu could think of to change the status quo. The next moment after Yang Mu's sword tip suddenly stabbed out, the lion immediately let out a more piercing roar. Yang Mu didn't know if his attack was effective, but he still gripped the chain sword fiercely and stirred it. The flame jet behind him brought up thick dust, and Yang Mu and the lion's figures were instantly submerged in it. In the thick dust, only the roar and the lion's continuous roar came. After an unknown amount of time, when Kunsang rushed into the smoke and dust, he suddenly heard a sharp roar, but the majestic roar stopped abruptly after a moment, and the roar of the mecha inside gradually stopped. At this time, Kunsang, who was sitting in, also saw a shocking scene. A scarred and almost broken mecha appeared in front of him, and under the mecha, the huge and slender lion had stopped moving at this moment, and the surroundings were all splashed with blood, dyeing the surrounding land red. At the same time, Chu Song, who was struggling over there, found that the lion in front of him suddenly wailed, and then the next moment, the lion suddenly pushed away the obstruction of a mecha in front of it and ran towards the depths of the forest without looking back. The crisis seemed to be resolved at this moment, and the tension gradually faded. At this time, a roaring sound came from the sky, and several mechas loaded with ammunition appeared in the venue with a bang, and at the same time, fighters roared, and the whole place was fully taken over by the fully armed army. Chu Song turned the fuselage stiffly and saw a mech lying on the ground not far away and no longer moving. He saw a lion under the mech, which seemed to be no longer moving. He didn't know whether it was dead or alive. Chu Song's eyes shrank and veins on his forehead twitched. This tragic battle finally came to an end. The hunting ground surrounded by the electric fence was in a miserable state. Several broken mechas were lying in the center area. Fragments of the platform not far away were flying everywhere, and a black smoke rose into the sky. Chapter 248 Chu Song's Plan. Chu Song is looking for me? What does he want to see me for? Yang Mu, who was inspecting his new halberd chopping mecha in the hangar, asked in surprise when he heard Kunsang say this to him. A few days ago, the tragic failed exercise brought a heavy blow to the White Tiger Mecha Regiment. A mecha squad was almost wiped out, and all 15 halberd chopping mechas participating in the exercise were damaged. 3 members were injured or killed, and 4 were injured to varying degrees. More importantly, a suspended command and combat platform crashed, and the so-called important person was buried in the lion's mouth. At the last moment, Yang Mu killed the saber-toothed lion, which alleviated the critical situation to a certain extent, and became the most outstanding person in this exercise. Afterwards, the deputy head of the mecha regiment personally met with Yang Mu, and praised Yang Mu's courage and excellent mecha fighting skills in the face of danger, and immediately guaranteed that the entire 13th squad would obtain a new halberd chopping mecha as soon as possible. The file of Yang Mu he saw was just a redesigned fake file. He just thought that this guy who was born in an ordinary military school was a good mecha driver, and he thought he had found a treasure. Yang Mu did not expose this matter, but just made a small request at the right time, hoping to modify his mecha in a small range to improve its performance. The other party did not take this matter to heart, and waved his hand, letting Yang Mu do it. At this time, the whole regiment also knew one thing. In their mecha regiment, there was a person who successfully killed a level 4 protozoan with only a mecha. This kind of creature can often only be solved by heavy firepower weapons. Countless mechas are defeated in front of it, but this time someone completed this incredible challenge. Everyone immediately became very interested in Yang Mu of the 13th Mecha Squad. In the past few days, several squad officers have come to visit to inquire about the situation, but they were all blocked by Shenlan one by one. Today, Shenlan went out to report on official business. In the entire camp, except for the maintenance team who helped to repair and maintain the mecha, there were only a few people left. Yang Mu. Chu Song came to find him at this time. Yang Mu did not think that he was here to congratulate him. He clearly remembered that after the battle, he was the first to run to his mecha, but he did not think of rescuing him from the mecha. On the contrary, he used the mecha to push his mecha to the side, and then carefully checked the dead saber-toothed lion. Yang Mu would never forget the cold, cannibalistic look of the other party when he came out of the cockpit. It was a blazing fire of jealousy, as if Yang Mu had smashed his most precious treasure in front of him. So the other party came to find him now, so his purpose must be very impure. With his arrogant temperament, he might be here to mock him. So after thinking for a while, Yang Mu decided not to meet him. knowing that he would bring him a lot of unhappiness next. Why should he get close to him? Since he came, just let him go. Yang Mu said so, and turned around to continue his work. Kun Sang scratched his head and was about to convey Yang Mu's meaning, but at this time a cold voice came from the door of the warehouse. I knew you would say that. The voice came out. Yang Mu turned his head and saw that familiar face. It was Chu Song. The other party was not willing to give up and came here directly. Yang Mu put down the things in his hands, wiped his hands on the work clothes on his body, and walked forward. He raised his head and looked at the other party, showing a smile, and said, "That's right, I just don't want to see you." Yang Mu said this, but there was no emotion in the other party's eyes, but he spoke lightly. "I have a suggestion, I believe you will be interested." "Sorry, I'm not interested." Yang Mu didn't give the other party a chance to continue speaking, and directly refused, and then there was still a faint smile on his face. Hearing Yang Mu's direct refusal, Chu Song's brows frowned, his eyes immediately raised and looked straight at Yang Mu, staring at Yang Mu for a moment, and then spoke. "Come to my team. You are very capable. We need mecha warriors like you." Puff. Kun Sang, who was standing aside and holding a bottle, suddenly spit out the wine in his mouth, then looked at Chu Song with wide eyes, and then turned to look at Yang Mu. "I didn't expect that the other party was not here to suppress me, but to poach me." It was still so blatant. The smile on Yang Mu's face became even stronger. He was very disdainful of the other party's request. He shrugged and said, "No, I have a good life here." With that, Yang Mu was about to turn around and ignore the other party. "You can also be the deputy captain if you come to the second team, and you can lead the team during wartime." Seeing that Yang Mu was unmoved, Chu Song was obviously anxious. He said loudly to Yang Mu and continued to throw out more generous conditions. Kun Sang, who had been relieved, suddenly became nervous again and looked at the two people in front of him again. But Yang Mu did not stop his steps. He had completely turned around and continued his work. "Yang Mu, you have to think clearly. This is the second team, a stronger team, which can obtain better resources and more meritorious tasks. Perhaps in a short time, your shoulder strap will be promoted to a higher level. Yang Mu, this is a unique opportunity." Chu Song almost roared loudly, and his originally calm face was now bruised. He was extremely angry at Yang Mu's unmoved look. But Yang Mu just shook his head, without turning around to look at him, and replied, "If I was for the so-called position and merit, then from the beginning, I would not be here." The light words gave Chu Song and Kun Sang a different understanding. They suddenly felt that the 19-year-old boy in front of them seemed to have something different. But Chu Song obviously did not give up. He opened his mouth and seemed to organize his words again, and said, "As long as you come, I owe you a favor, and I promise that you will get a generous reward later." When saying this, Chu Song had a hesitant tone, but it made Yang Mu raise his eyebrows. The other party was originally such a plain person. Although he had some schemes, he never seemed to want anyone to tell him about his own weaknesses. But now, the other party actually said such a thing. Even if it was a strange story, Yang Mu was very interested. Chu Song glanced at the many people in the warehouse, and his expression struggled for a moment. He called Yang Mu to the side, and saw Kun Sang following him. He didn't care and spoke in a low voice. "Originally, not many people knew about this matter. I also learned about it by chance from the conversation in the head of the regiment office." "What's the matter?" Kun Sang asked. "The White Tiger Mecha Regiment seems to be transferred in a while, and this will be a permanent mission, and there will be combat missions at any time." "Combat mission? Where are they stationed?" Yang Mu asked. Chu Song looked at Yang Mu and still spoke in a low voice. "Sana Star Region, Sana Star Region." Yang Mu and Kun Sang were both surprised. "Yes, this will be a long-term stationing mission, and it will be accompanied by friction and danger at any time. The most elite soldiers from various countries are gathered there. You should know that the soldiers stationed there have the highest casualty rate every year, so you want to transfer out of the White Tiger Mecha Regiment." Yang Mu quickly grasped the crux of the problem. Chu Song seemed to be embarrassed by Yang Mu's question and nodded with a flushed face. "I am the only son in the family, and my father hopes that I need a chance to prove myself so that I can be promoted from here and go somewhere else." Chapter 249 Planning and Conversation. "You are deserting." When Chu Song said all this timidly, Kun Sang suddenly said loudly, attracting all the maintenance personnel who were still working in the warehouse. "Go on, Yang Mu stretched out his hand to stop Kun Sang's behavior, and let Chu Song continue. So I hope you can join our mecha team, so that as long as we complete the task of killing the 4th level protozoan again, I will be able to find a way to get a promotion for me. Of course, after this, if you are not interested in the official position, I can help you find some special materials or parts to help you strengthen your mecha, so that you will be safer when you go to the Sone Star Field, and I still owe you a favor. Chu Song looked at Yang Mu and said this righteously, and then looked at Yang Mu's face and waited for a response. Yang Mu lowered his eyes, but he was not thinking about the other party. Yang Mu knew one thing from the other party's words, that is, this White Tiger mech regiment will go directly to the Sone Star region in the near future, and this mission now seems to be only a decision made by the top leaders, and they are unwilling to let the entire mech regiment know too early. Because the consequences of being known in advance are already obvious, the unusually high war losses, deaths, and disability rates of the permanent troops in the Sone Star region will always make some people choose to retreat, even regardless of violating the law of the army never act as deserters on the battlefield. While thinking about all this, Yang Mu remembered what Cuz said to him at the end. He said that the source of all the Zerg conspiracies came from the Sone Star region. He had planned to find an opportunity to go there, but he didn't expect that this opportunity would appear in front of him now. Seeing Yang Mu not moving for a long time, Chu Song felt a little upset. He originally wanted to take advantage of the opportunity of the exercise to kill a level 4 protozoan on the spot. In that case, he would definitely achieve remarkable results, and his achievement would definitely become a merit. If everything went well, he should have received a new transfer order by now. But the exercise ended tragically, and Chu Song failed to achieve his goal. Not only that, his team also lost a member, which would be a major blow to his plan. Now the opportunity is in front of him, no matter what, Chu Song decided to fight for it. Yang Mu heard the other party's call, turned his head, and then spoke. Sorry, I still don't accept your proposal, you. Why? Chu Song was obviously shocked by Yang Mu's decisive refusal, and asked with a bit of anger, but Yang Mu raised his head and motioned to the other party to let him finish his words. Although I won't go to your team, you are the second team after all, and you usually get some good missions. At this time, you should be able to say something to the regiment headquarters and take us with you. Of course, I believe that we have no way to refuse such an order, but it depends on whether we really contribute at that time. Chu Song is not a fool. As the captain of the second team, he quickly understood the meaning of Yang Mu's words. He was immediately happy, but still said seriously. So what do you need me to do? What is the price? Hearing a perfect question, Yang Mu's mouth curled up slightly, and then said to the other party. I hope you can use the ability you just mentioned to help me find something in a factory on Annihilation Star in the New Song Star region. That factory is called Jimu Minglan Factory. The thing is a mechanical arm of a mecha. When you go there, your boss will tell you that the person who wants this thing is called Yang Mu. They will naturally understand. Yang Mu spoke these words word by word, and he couldn't help but feel a little excited. He realized the power of the creatures on this native planet. He originally wanted to make some modifications to the Zhanji mecha. He had already proposed this request to the deputy head and it was approved, but he was suffering from the fact that there was no way to get such a big thing from the outside world. But now the opportunity has come. Chu Song in front of him said that he could help, which solved Yang Mu's current urgent need. As long as you help me complete this matter, then I will help you to the end, Yang Mu said decisively. Chu Song looked at Yang Mu with a surprised look for a long time, and finally nodded. Deal. White Tiger Mecha Regiment Headquarters Office. Old Chen, how could you have done such a thing when I was away? You'll probably be criticized again this time. In the office, a sturdy hand picked up the tea on the table and handed it to the stubble-covered mouth. The man had a rough face, but at this moment he was staring at the report on the display panel, blaming the person sitting opposite the desk. Crazy Chu, do you think I'm willing? Such a big mistake has been criticized at the holographic meeting yesterday. It's because Gray promised to help us get a generous subsidy after the incident. I also wanted to help replace some mecha equipment. I want to make up for my crime and make meritorious service now, so you have to think of a way. The person sitting opposite the desk was Chen Wei, the deputy commander who presided over the entire exercise that day, but his face was gloomy at the moment. What can I think of? Am I not a person who makes up for my crime and makes meritorious service? I was so damaged in this mission this time, I'm really unlucky." The sturdy man sitting in the main seat also had his eyes wide open, as if he remembered something, and his face had a look of having eaten shit. This muscular, unkempt man is the leader of the White Tiger Mech Regiment, Chu Zio. Hearing Chu Zio's indignant complaints, Chen Wei asked, "What's going on? I saw that only 2 mechas came back from the first team. What did you encounter?" Half a month ago, Chu Zio and Chen Wei received a secret order to organize people to survey a jungle point in the zinking 4-star equatorial area. The mission was urgent and the risk factor was high. In order to complete the mission with high quality, the leader Chu Zio decided to go out in person and brought the most elite team of the mech regiment, the first mech team. But just yesterday, this team came back. There were only 3 of the 6 mechas left when they set out, and they were all in tatters, and all the weapons were damaged. "Alice, this is very strange. That place is very evil. Isn't it just a strong space fluctuation? Although it is a primitive jungle, you shouldn't be so embarrassed, right?" Chen Wei said with some doubts, but at the same time, he seemed to remember something and said to Chu Zio with a surprised face, "Did you encounter a level 4 creature, more than that?" "A group of level 4 creatures, and a level 5 creature," Chu Zio said angrily. "Level 4 creatures? Another group? What's going on?" As far as Chen Wei knew, the level 4 creatures he encountered now were not many in groups, and they were widely distributed. The last exercise saw 2 level 4 creatures appear at once, which was already an incredible discovery, but now Chu Zio said that a group of level 4 creatures appeared. Chu Zio didn't seem to want to recall this experience too much. He shook his head and said with a look of disappointment, "Something is still wrong. Anyway, I have informed the higher authorities. It depends on how they decide. Let's think about how to complete the first team before transferring to the Sonne Star region and improve the combat power of the entire mecha regiment." Hearing Chu Zio's words, Chen Wei raised his eyebrows and said to Chu Zio, "Speaking of this, I recently found a good seedling." "Oh?" He almost single-handedly controlled the mecha to kill a level 4 creature. "What?" Chapter 250 Duelin's Preparation. Boss Duo, business is booming. Next to a factory warehouse, 2 large floating trucks had just closed the warehouse door. A well-dressed middle-aged man put on his sunglasses, walked to the warehouse door, and stretched out his hand to the person in front of him with a smile on his face. The person immediately stretched out his hand and shook hands with him vigorously. At the same time, a humble voice sounded. "Thank you very much, you can just call me Duelin. Let's have a happy cooperation." Happy cooperation? The voice was clear and bright, and with a hint of youth, a familiar face gradually appeared. This person was one of Yang Mu's best friends, Duelin. More than a year ago, Duelin came to this planet with loss, and worked hard with his father from dawn to dusk, slowly managing his life. The hard life made Duelin understand the truth that things are not easy in the world, and he also saw his father's early white hair, and wanted to help his father get rid of his current predicament as soon as possible. So after working as an apprentice for a period of time, Duelin made up his mind to open a factory by himself. But Duelin, who was just starting out, could not have imagined that this would be such a bumpy road. At that time, I just told Jiahao about my idea, and the 2 of them hit it off and chose to run a factory together. However, when the 2 of them searched their pockets, the funds they gathered were only enough to rent a small and remote factory building and purchase a set of old machinery and equipment. There was no sales channel and no interpersonal relationship. The 2 of them were at a loss. And it was at that time that Duelin returned to Halen Star with Jiahao during the winter vacation and met Yang Mu and Su Yuanming, who brought new opportunities to Duelin. Su Yuanming agreed to invest funds and help him open up sales channels, and Yang Mu, the boss he had always admired, actually brought him something even more shocking. A product with invention patents. This is what he dreamed of using to break into the market. That's why, after Duelin and Jiahao returned to Annihilation Star, the 2 of them devoted themselves to opening a factory, and Jiahao even secretly gave up his university studies. Su Yuanming's funds and channels were quickly in place, and Duelin and Jiahao were able to purchase new equipment and recruit skilled workers. After that, everything seemed to start going smoothly. The business of special screws brought him his first pot of gold, and with this sales channel, his products began to open up markets in many fields. The factory's business grew bigger and bigger, and the family's living conditions were greatly improved. Duelin and Jiahao also became a small entrepreneurial miracle in the surrounding area. What surprised Duelin even more was Yang Mu's invention. Why could the boss, who used to be inconspicuous, developed such an advanced patented product in such a short time. The business slowly expanded, and in the second month, the entire factory had already achieved profitability. And Doolin was finally able to explain to his family what he was doing. The factory's business grew bigger and bigger, and the family's living conditions were greatly improved. Doolin and Jia Hao also became a small entrepreneurial miracle in the surrounding area. The career slowly got on the right track, and Doolin thought of the complete drawings that Yang Mu gave him at this time. It was a thick bundle of drawings. Doolin also liked mechanical design in private and had studied those drawings carefully. The magnificent design, as well as the rough yet sophisticated design, each design made Doolin very impressed. In his joy, Doolin also began to find some people to slowly design and manufacture this mecha arm. It took 2 months for Doolin and Jia Hao to completely assemble this thing, and then Doolin took it to the black market. The largest black market on Annihilation Star mainly provides special equipment and some military and even retired equipment for various adventurer teams, and also undertakes mecha explosion modification tasks. When Doolin just arrived here with his family, he helped to make these things in a store here. So this mecha arm is also placed here. I thought this thing would be unsold for a long time, but I didn't expect that the person who was looking for this equipment, who I asked the store manager to notify, bought it the next day, and paid in full. Doolin was surprised that this thing was so in line with the other party's appetite, but he didn't think much about it. He just continued his own business and gradually forgot about it. It was not until one afternoon more than a month later that Jia Hao and Duolun were checking a new order. The other party came to the door, and this time, they asked directly for more robotic arms. Knowing all this, Duolun was naturally very surprised, but his admiration for his boss was even stronger. The boss just told him to let go and do it, but he didn't expect to have such an excellent result. Okay, we'll leave first. I will come to pick up the goods again next Tuesday. Boss Duolun, please prepare enough goods. No problem, don't worry. Smiling and sending off the owner and the team in front of him, Duolun rubbed his face that was a little sore from laughing. The factory has been running completely for a year. The business channels have also changed from only supplying goods to Su Yuanming's group at the beginning to finding some customers to sell goods to now. The customer who left in front of him was pulled over by Jia Hao. Jia Hao has a carefree personality and is more suitable for dealing with others. He is now the sales manager and deputy general manager of the factory, while Duolun is the general manager, responsible for the operation of all things. Relieved, Doolin was about to close the warehouse and go back to the factory to catch up on the product schedule. At this time, a company employee suddenly walked in with a person behind him. Boss, this person wants to see you, the employee introduced Doolin, and Doolin raised his eyebrows, thinking that the person brought by the employee was here to discuss business. He immediately smiled, walked forward a few steps, and talked to the other party. The man also looked up, and Doolin saw a handsome face under the hat, and at the same time, there was an indescribable solemnity. Are you the boss of Jianmu Minglan factory? Chu Song said lightly, looking at the young man in front of him who was a little too young. For his own promotion, Chu Song agreed to Yang Mu's request and came here in person, hoping to get this done as soon as possible. Yes, my name is Doolin, may I ask who you are? Doolin looked at the other party, listening to the other party's obviously pointed words, and immediately asked with some doubts. You should know Yang Mu, Chu Song said this lightly. And at the same time saw Doolin's surprised expression after hearing his name. Sure enough, the factory in front of him had some great connection with Yang Mu. After confirming that it was this factory, Chu Song did not beat around the bush and simply told Doolin the reason why Yang Mu wanted him to come, and showed a handwritten letter between himself and Yang Mu at the right time. Boss, do you want to ship the stuff out now? Doolin read the letter in his hand and understood what Yang Mu meant, and immediately asked Chu Song. Chu Song nodded. The other party's serious expression and the way he just addressed Yang Mu made Chu Song feel a little different. It seems that the guy is really capable here. Chu Song nodded again and added, you guys will transport the distance from Annihilation Star to Changjian Space City, and then you have to take the military channel. We will do it. Doolin looked him up and down for a few times, and did not say anything else, but just stretched out his hand to lead him into the warehouse behind him. The three of them walked into the warehouse, and Doolin also spoke. The boss mentioned this to me when he wrote back to me, and I kept it in mind. I also used the best materials to make it. Doolin said this, suddenly stopped in the depths of the warehouse, and then stood next to a standing cargo box, turned his head and said to Chu Song, "It's just right, I have assembled it." After speaking, Doolin stretched out his hand and pulled, and the cargo box covered with dust cloth appeared in front of him, and inside it, a huge mechanical arm was embedded. The rough shape, exquisite joint design, smooth detail processing, and the glittering metal texture brought a huge shock to Chu Song, who was standing in front of him. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone, see you in the next video.